Y'all are in trouble this morning. 7 hours of plus sleep, shower, shave. Mom's feeling better. Life is good, Kevin. It's Masters Week. Got the NBA playoffs coming up. We just finished an NCAA championship run for Florida. It was impressive. Good morning, JB, KB. How are you guys doing today?
And you have more job security than Michael Malone, right?
Wow. I don't think he has any anymore, does he?
Oh, he's got a ring and he's got some money. I guess,
No,
and he's got the month of April.
Yeah,
Wow.
this isn't
He
the
can
regular.
watch a lot of the Masters if we want to look at the positives.
He is not going to be in the unemployment line or checking to see if he can get all of his benefits.
My favorite just got fired story of all time is Cliff Kingsbury. Remember, he got fired and within 24 hours, he was over on an Asian island somewhere for like the next 6 weeks.
He's in Thailand.
Just drinking Mai Tais and hanging out at the beach.
Yeah,
That's how you do it, right?
If I'm not mistaken, hanging out with Mrs. Kingsbury, which certainly looked like he had a good time.
That's good stuff. JB, you're excited today because
The beast is out.
yeah,
Shout out to Dane Brugler, my colleague, our NFL draft guru. For those who are familiar and for those who are not familiar, the beast is basically our NFL draft guide, and it's great. It is interactive this year, it looks like, so I highly recommend that you subscribe to The Athletic, which isn't really I promise this isn't a grift. I mean, I would love for you to read me. Read Dane. This will pay for your year subscription, honest to God, or your monthly fee or whatever it is, because the dude puts in so much work. I believe last year every prospect that got drafted was in the beast, and this year I would assume the same thing's going to happen because he's done it bigger and better, and it is an awesome piece of journalism. And the last thing I'll say is, for all the rivals out there, they all use it. So ESPN, Indy Star, all the people in the media room during these days of the draft are opening the beast to research these guys when they get their names called.
Well, you would only have the money if you didn't take the Pacers, minus 18.5 last night.
This is
correct,
true.
James Boyd?
This is true.
I tried warning
This is
him.
true.
Man,
This is true.
man,
was a
oh
weird
man,
game,
oh
wasn't it?
man. That is a win that I guess we'll speak about.
When Bub Carrington made Tyrese fall, I was like, oh, I could just see. This is why I don't bet, because I could see the money, my fake money, just being evaporated because of that. So, Mark, I must say, you do know what you're talking about.
I told you.
this is
Don't
what
touch it.
I think we added to the book.
Yeah.
If you are that big of an underdog in the NBA, it is a gambling 101. You have to take the underdog, and then we can play the game too.
I thought you were going to say, you have to call this number if you do this.
I thought you were going to say stay away from it altogether is what you were
No,
going to
you
say.
have to take the underdog in a game like that, and then you can play the game. Is this a Masters grouping coming up tomorrow, or is this a member of the Wizards team? Bub Carrington sounds like an SEC golfer. How about JT Thor? How about Tony Gill? Are those guys playing in the Masters, or did they play for the Wizards last night?
I remember JT Thor because he's at one point when he first came in the league, he may be the skinniest dude I've ever seen play in the NBA, other than Manute Bol. JT Thor is a thin dude.
Yeah, he was gunning a couple times last night. That was the most open. Well, and to be fair, I don't really watch these teams unless the Pacers are playing them. That is the most I've ever seen a team openly tank within a game. I see teams obviously sit guys. I mean, the Wizards sat a ton of guys last night. Brogdon and Coulibaly and Chris Middleton, et cetera, et cetera. I have never seen a team openly tank as much as the Wizards did in the second half last night. Jordan Poole just magically disappeared midway through the third quarter, never to be seen
he
again.
couldn't miss either for a while.
Alex Sarr was arguably the best player in the entire game, and he just goes to the bench midway through the fourth quarter and never returns. They're down 2 possessions with 20 seconds to go, and they stop fouling. It was masterful by the Wizards in their open tank, and the Pacers will happily take it. And now they will try to clinch coming up tomorrow night, some home court.
You got teams trying to get the best chance that they can possibly get in the upcoming NBA draft lottery to get Cooper Flagg, and that's what everybody's trying to do. And you're seeing it all over the league, too. It wasn't just the Wizards. I've seen some other teams doing that lately as well. John Morant again last night. Did you see him? He was in Charlotte.
I did not. What I missed.
So, he just got fined for, once again, showing guns after he makes baskets. So
Proverbial.
He didn't do that. So
guns, by the way, not real ones.
Right.
Just
Well,
the finger guns. For those listening.
But he also has a history with some of those, too.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah. Just
problem.
give the full context.
Probably important clarification.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
within the context of, yes, he's in the middle of the game, so he's not pulling out a gun in the middle of the game, but he's pretending to shoot things all the time. So last night, since he's coming off the fine for doing that, I think I'll just throw a pretend grenade instead.
I don't even want to give this guy any energy. I mean, we can talk about the Pacers, their weird
I
win.
just thought it was weird.
he wants attention. I won't give it to him. I just don't care. It is what it is. If he was in our market, I feel like I would feel inclined to talk about it more. But, for those out there, I will say one thing. If you want to read about it, read a piece by Vince Goodwill in Yahoo Sports. I thought he laid out a very fair assessment of the entire situation. But getting back to our neck of the woods, I thought that last night's game was weird, but also funny because Quinn Buckner, give me some smothered chicken. Give me some smothered chicken, Miles. I cannot stop laughing at that call. And when they clipped that,
Your impression's
oh
outstanding,
my
by the
gosh,
way.
like Quinn is he's like a hero. And again, he's a legend from where I'm from, Illinois, and obviously here in Indiana as well. So it is so funny to see his reactions. And I love when they have the facial camera where you can see him and Chris Dennery together, and Chris's eyes just got wide when he just went into full smothered chicken mode, and that was so funny.
It had been a while since we had gotten a smothered chicken. Very deserved last night from Quinn Buckner.
And blocked by smothered chicken. Please give me some smothered chicken on that one.
I think James was spot on. Can we get those side by side later on?
Joey Molinaro, Frank Caliendo, James Boyd.
Man, oh man.
It's only Quinn I feel like I can do because he just I don't know.
To meet that moment at 7:05 in the morning is quite impressive.
That's insanely
From James
good right
Boyd.
there.
I will say probably the biggest takeaway from last night was at least Tyrese Halliburton averted the disaster of what it looked like there right before halftime. I mean, when he fell in the back, I thought to myself, oh boy, is this now going to be the dominant storyline? Who the hell cares? Frankly, even if you lost to the Wizards, as embarrassing as that would be, you don't really care about that. You care about your star in the month of April. But for Tyrese Halliburton to say, I believe after the game, he called it a floor burn. I feel like I'm back playing in like carpeted elementaries back in the day. So crisis averted there. And really just an ugly, ugly game. The Pacers, again, they were fortunate the Wizards went all in on the tank in the second half. The Pacers got to the foul line on a routine basis, which on a night where they shot at the worst they have all season, they needed to do some other things. And I did think if you want to go individual positives, I thought Pascal Siakam's return, I thought he looked just fine. And obviously that has been a topic we've talked about here over the last month or so. So important as the Pacers do indeed inch one game closer. Magic numbers 1 to get home court here coming up. It'll be a back-to-back. Cleveland, who clinched the 1 seed last night, and then the Magic on Friday.
Looking forward to that, and it's just Masters morning. I know you're fired up for that. JB, I know that you're fired up for just everything that's coming down the line here. This is, we've talked about it. Everybody's excited about sports again. 18 million people watching the NCAA championship game on Monday night, a 22% increase from a year ago when UConn was winning its second in a row. People still like their sports.
They don't want to watch Purdue? No, I the TV ratings thing is always like interesting to me because
earlier tip time.
That
Doesn't
probably
hurt.
was a big factor in all seriousness. But for me, I never really think too much about TV ratings because I don't own a TV company. So it's just like when I hear it, I'm like, oh, great. They went up. Cool. They went down. Don't care. Like,
It just means it's good for our industry.
yeah,
is what
no,
it
I
means.
definitely love it for our industry. But for the people who are like, who live and die by this stuff, like, oh my God, the NBA is dying. And I'm like, well, you don't have to watch it. Like, I would hope you do. If you don't, cool. Baseball, if you're watching it, cool. If you're not, cool. But I definitely enjoy the fact that we got, I think the actual games might have helped too. With some of that because you don't want to turn it off. It was down to the wire again.
Or you check your phone and you're like, oh, this is good. I better check it out.
Exactly. Got to turn on the last 5 minutes. I'm definitely a big last 5 minutes guy when it's not like a huge game. Obviously, I'll watch the whole thing. But if there's any game on and you tell me, hey, this is pretty close, or if there's like a baseball game and it goes to the bottom of the ninth and it's tied with 2 on, I'm like, all right, let me turn this on just to see what happens. So I'm definitely excited for what's to come because it's not going to slow down anytime here soon.
I know Kevin's excited. For those of you who can't see the TV screen in the Hubler Studios today, got the nice quality Masters T-shirt. You got the nice quality Masters hat. Like, you are good to go.
Indeed.
I'm not quite sure what that meant, Mark Dyke.
Oh, I know exactly what.
I'm a little afraid to ask.
He's got a 3-wood.
24 hours and 30 minutes. A Stinger 2-iron here. 24 hours, 30 minutes from
Is it a 3-wood or a Stinger 2-iron? We need to know.
the opening tee shot from Augusta National. We need to do a little Masters draft today.
Oh, I like that. Now, could you throw into the mix just some names from the Wizards just in case?
Well, I think the Wizards are all in on Cooper Flag, who, by the way, did you guys see Cooper Flag hitting the Duke University driving range on Monday?
I did not see that.
Gotta love. He's just one of us. You know, a nice weather day. His off season has begun. He's hitting the range.
Yeah, get that pain off you. He's probably like, I
Sure.
gotta clear my mind.
He's trying to hit the hit the range picker to really get the,
you go.
anger out. Biggest master storyline for you, Jeff, is what?
What's Rory got left? He even talked about the fact that he's feeling like he's maybe a little physically past his prime, but he also knows himself so much better. And it feels almost, as I'm listening to him talk, it almost felt like he's trying to talk himself into, I'm going to win this major.
Yeah,
He's
it's his
clearly
best
capable.
form, probably, I would say, to start a season in quite a while. You know, again, for those unfamiliar, this is the last and only major he has not won. He has certainly been up there many, many times, 7 top 10s in his history at Augusta National. I'd argue as well, Scotty Scheffler, you win 3 of 4 Masters. That is something we hardly have ever seen. And Xander Schauffele, for those that don't want to go through Rory and Scotty, Xander's going for 3 majors and 4 starts, which is also rather unprecedented. I mean, you're getting into some Tiger-ish and not even Tiger stuff if either of those two storylines play out. So I am a schoolgirl. Tonight is Christmas Eve for me.
I like it. He is a Mark. I can hear it now. Mark, in your head, you just said to yourself, he's a schoolgirl with a 3-wood. Is what
That's
you're
right.
saying.
Yep.
That's what
Yeah,
you're
we
saying.
probably should stop there. But, Mark, I will add this. Did you see that the Masters has an hour-long, just constant replay of their theme song on their YouTube channel?
I'm pretty sure I used that yesterday. Yeah.
Is that what you used?
Uh-huh.
How beautiful is
Wait,
that?
the fact that you know this is actually pretty amazing.
I'm telling you.
I didn't know like the
He just
depth
puts it on
of
in the
this
background.
love.
He's doing his studying for the show, and he just puts it on in the background.
I mean, we want to talk Masters for 3 hours. By all means, do you guys really want to talk about the Pacers and the Wizards?
I told you.
How about the Pacers and their playoff push? I'd rather talk
Sure.
about that.
More than hour-long music serenades of the Masters.
That's heaven, baby. That's heaven.
So, in all seriousness, though, I do have a quick question for you. Do you have an opinion on the you should talk after you perform in golf?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I
mean, we don't
think,
have to get into it right now,
yeah,
but
I know.
I thought that was something interesting. I didn't know that wasn't a rule or
yeah,
whatever.
for those unfamiliar, Colin
So-
Morikawa has been one of the more outspoken players about that. Yeah, I think you're getting paid the level that you're getting paid, James. To the point you made earlier, or, you know, you look at TV ratings and you look at you know, that sort of, I guess, appeal. Yeah, I think 5 minutes after a round, good, bad, and different. I mean, James, how many times do NBA players talk? I mean, Tyrese Halliburton
yeah.
is talking, what, 12 times a week?
Yeah.
When you think about it, if it's a shoot around or 90 minutes before a game. So, yeah, there are times where golfers really piss me off,
So-
and that's one of them.
And generally, how it works at a golf tournament, so it's framed a little bit different than, you know, being in a locker room or things like that. A golfer will come off the course, they'll sign their scorecard, and generally, if they're of note, they've had a great round, there's something worth talking to, they'll do this thing called like a little flash interview where it's 8-10 people, whoever's there, will just put microphones up in front of the guy. They'll ask him 3-4 questions. He goes on his way. And then later on, usually that's when you get into the relationships. You know somebody, you've been around, you go to the locker room, you say, hey, Rory, tell me about 15, what was going on there, and you can have some more personal stuff. But it's all up to the individual. Like, there's no requirement that you have to
me,
go.
it seems pretty easy. 2-3 minutes right after a round, I see little harm in it. Obviously, some of the bigger names and guys leading the tournament, for example, go maybe into the press center itself. But I think it's just another sign that golfers can be a bit pretentious.
All right, so we've got that to talk about today, a playoff push for the Pacers. We haven't even mentioned the weirdest story in the NBA yesterday. We'll tell you all about it as we roll on. And this is already a Wednesday, Mark? Man, I tell you, this is fantastic. My favorite day of the week, too. We'll all continue next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
By Butler Bulldogs Basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
All right, another win, as such as it was for the Indiana Pacers, JB. They slipped past the Washington Wizards late in the game last night after overcoming numerous double-digit deficits in that game.
Yes, it was a win for the Pacers, a loss for me against Mark and his betting wisdom. I knew when I came in this morning I would get that look of just, I told you so. And I've been getting that same look from my dad pretty much my entire life. You know, other family members or friends who have told me things and I just didn't listen. And I'm sorry, Mark. I bumped my head, man. I've learned my lesson.
I'm putting you on the right path. I'm trying to put you in the right lane.
Mark's not mad. He's just disappointed.
Yeah.
Yes, he's disappointed. I will say, though, that was some bad hoops. I mean, I watched it because I had to, and I tweeted out before the game, like, which one of you sickos are watching this game? And I got some hilarious responses. I didn't even expect to really get funny remarks, but people were like, I'm at the game. That's how sick I am. Someone's like, I got the flu watching this game. And it's like, that was such bad basketball, but it counts all the same as a win. And the biggest thing, KB, is that Tyrese made it out of it healthy after the fall.
Yeah, and again, I thought Siakam did look good individually. He helped get you over the hump, if you will, to steal a phrase from Mike Woodson there down the stretch. Couple big buckets at the rim. Neesmith hit that corner three. Turner also helped kind of ice it there. So, yeah, celebrate 48 wins, most for this franchise in, a handful of years. Again, on the verge of clinching home court, but at the same time, I think I'm ready for playoff basketball. I think overanalyzing a win against a team that is clearly openly tanking, I am very much looking forward to 10 days from now when we get an actual series, and in all likelihood, that series will begin on Easter weekend right here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
104-98 was the final score. Pacers have a 5-game winning streak. Pascal Siakam had 24 points, 10 boards. Tyrese Halliburton contributed 21, but the Milwaukee Bucks also came from behind to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves last night, 110-103. They remain
that was an
three games.
Epic fourth quarter.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable the collapse. by the T-Wolves.
40-13. They outscored them to come back and win that
Insane.
game.
Makes you wonder what the Timberwolves are thinking right now, doesn't
Sick.
And they
feel
need
like
to win more than the Bucks.
Yeah, they feel like Houston. They feel like Duke. Like, we blew this game.
it? And it feels like that's the first-round opponent over there at Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
Again, continuing to trend in that direction. Still not locked up, but yeah, that's what it's looking like right now. James Boyd, how was the local pro day yesterday?
It was pretty solid. It was cool. I caught up actually with Seth Coleman from Illinois, a defensive end/edge rusher. Saw the little personal tie, but also got to talk to Curtis Rourke from IU, of course, and he was telling us that he's on the mend from his ACL recovery and surgery, and he just said he got cleared maybe a few weeks ago to start throwing again. Didn't throw yesterday, taking it easy, but he is on the road to recovery. And I asked him, KB, I was like, how does it feel to be like fully healthy, or at least getting close to that mark for the first time in over a year? And he was like, yeah, I'm happy I didn't get the MRI until after the season. And I was like, respect.
That is a wild story.
Yeah.
I mean, he just
tough dude.
like, can you imagine?
Played on a torn ACL, had the best football season of his life.
And
And I just don't want to know until afterwards, right?
And the torn ACL happened in the summer. I mean, can you imagine getting that? And he missed time. Remember the thumb he had, or the whatever it was.
Tough dude, man.
Yeah. So again, not a lot of NFL draftable talent necessarily,
Yeah.
but one thing the local pro day does benefit is you do get a lot of kind of under the radar local guys that maybe might not get that opportunity in front of NFL people. And we've seen it, when the Colts have their rookie mini camp here in about a month, you sometimes see those guys involved, tryout guys that can potentially earn a spot on the 90-man roster during the offseason. So
Yeah.
I do like the NFL does that for, again, trying to reward some people that aren't the frontline draftable guys.
Major League Baseball, the Reds did it again, guys. Kevin, Nick Lindolo, 6 innings of shutout baseball, and they shut out the Giants as a team, 1-0. You can't score against our Reds.
Now, hottest team in baseball. I would appreciate some acknowledgement here from Mark Dykton on that.
You
That's
can't
now,
stop them.
They won a game.
Giants
There's your
haven't scored in 18 innings against the Reds, so don't look now, but here come the Red Legs.
That was the most brother response ever. They won a game. There's your acknowledgement.
Yeah.
The Cubs did win as well, Mark, 10-6 over the Rangers. They've actually started the season quite well.
They're swinging some big sticks out there. They're putting up some runs, so that's nice to see.
Yeah, Dansby Swanson had the go-ahead 2-run single in the 8th, and a solo home run. Also, Indianapolis Indians losing on the road in Louisville last night, 4-2 was the final score there. All right, the strangest story of the day. We'll talk more about it as the show gets into it, but the Denver Nuggets fired their head coach and their general manager, JB, 3 games before the start of the postseason.
That was a wild one for me. And from what I read in The Athletic and at ESPN and other places, it seems like this rift had been brewing for a while. So perhaps after the Denver Nuggets maybe lose in the first round, lose in the second round, this would have been the case either way. But to have it happen a week before the playoffs was shocking, to say the least. I mean, I could not believe my eyes. I mean, this is Michael Malone we're talking about, who won the franchise's first NBA title
2
as their
seasons
coach.
ago.
Yeah, so 22 months ago, he's on top of the world, and now he's no longer coaching who I believe to be the best player in the sport, Nikola Jokic. So, weird day in Denver for sure.
No question about that. All right. We've got a big show for you coming up at 8 o'clock. Stephen Holder will stop by, talk about the Colts. We are now 15 days away from the NFL draft. Mike DeCourcy will wrap up the NCAA basketball season for us coming up at 9:30. In the meantime, we'll talk a little bit more about how JB spent his day yesterday. Next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Now, I love my partners. James Boyd over here during a break, tweeting out Quinn going smothered chicken. You are all into the smothered chicken today.
I am. I haven't heard that call from him in quite a while. I think Miles gave him a shout-out after the game. I earned one for the first time in a while. And shout out to Miles as well. He's been a block machine the last couple of games. I believe he had, another 5 last night, if I'm not mistaken. But he played really big and had some really key moments. And, again, that smothered chicken, at 7:30 in the morning is just fantastic.
Smothered chicken! Please give me some smothered chicken on that one.
Please give me some smothered chicken on that one. He's hilarious. He's the best. I don't care what you say. He might not always know if the shot's good or not, but he's going to know, a good block or a good play and give you some joy and laughter. So thank you, Quinn Buckner.
Kevin Bowen, we got the Masters draft coming up in just a few minutes here. I know you've been preparing, reslotting, reshuffling.
How much do you guys want to
order?
nerd out? By the way, James Boyd, excellent as always on the Quinn Buckner.
Oh, thank you.
Impression. That's now twice before 7:45.
We'll get one more. We'll get it at least once more today.
Stuck in my head
Listener
now.
Anthony emailed me. He goes, to throw a spin on the Masters draft, here's something that he does with his uncles. And again, I don't want to overcomplicate things. I know this is kind of my nerdy thing, or maybe there's some others out there
Hey, we'll roll with it.
that can agree. I was just thinking pure there's 4 of us in here, 3-player snake draft, like we did the backup quarterback draft.
Right.
Very simple. Pick 3 players, boom, lowest total score. Anthony wants to throw a curveball. He goes, you pick 4 golfers, one of it, any golfer in the entire field. Another golfer has to be under the age of 30. Another golfer has to be over the age of 40. And then lastly, you have to pick a golfer outside of the top 25 in the world.
This would be good if I knew enough about their age and where they come from.
Yeah, we can just send you easy links that you can access the world golf rankings and you can pick somebody outside. the top 25.
I'm open to it.
Is that too much? I don't
No,
want to
not really.
I don't want to overcomplicate, but at the same time, I kind of like where Anthony's going.
I'm always like, let's just do it. And
Mark, you are our draft commissioner after winning the backup quarterback draft, so we'll leave it.
which
up
I'm still,
to you.
a little skeptical about, those ping pong balls and the way things kind of. No, I'm joking.
Well, you're the one that won.
And the frozen envelope.
The
I
first
got
pick.
Patrick Ewing.
You were the Wizards openly tanking, James,
That's
and you
true.
elected to take.
This is
You took the end of the snake,
This
not
is true.
the front of the snake.
Well, I was scared that Mark's henchmen would find me and jump me if I didn't
Mark, you like the basic draft, or you like Anthony throwing a little bit of a spin cycle?
I
on
like
it?
Anthony's, but I think for radio purposes,
Okay.
let's
Keep
not
it
get in the
simple.
weeds too much.
Yeah,
That's
fair
fair.
enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So a little bit later, we will throw round 1 at the draft. I believe tomorrow will be safe to maybe complete our draft during the show. I don't think we'll have a whole lot of early returns from round 1. 7:40, I want to say, is the first tee time from Augusta National. So we'll do that upcoming.
I like that. And by the way, Mark's group of henchmen, they're all under 4 feet tall, and they will just get after you like piranhas. Is this not true, Mark?
Oh, my daughters, yeah.
Yeah.
They'll sick you. Yeah, they'll get you.
They'll sick you.
Death by 1,000 bites right
rather
there.
There's times I'm just trying to walk around the house and I just get leg locked. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Would you rather fight 100 pint-sized ducks or 1 Quentin Nelson-sized duck? Is that the
My
is that the
guess
thing?
would be, though, you in some ways encourage this behavior, though, don't you?
Without a doubt, yeah. I definitely have brought it upon myself.
Yeah, you gotta get. I don't know what's the cutoff time, but man, it's so funny now because, again, I'll go home to assert dominance every now and then over my dad and tell him, I'm the man of the house, and he doesn't buy any of that. But as soon as my mom's like, get him, get him, boo, get him, he's like, well, look, we're not really about to do this because I gotta get up in the morning and not feel any pain. So it's funny, and so I had the same childhood, honestly, Mark, where I just beat up on the people around me, and I'll be doing the same thing one day myself.
It's a healthy relationship, I think.
There you go.
Yeah, my youngest tried to jump on my back from behind about a year ago when he was 14, and that was, we both realized at that moment in time, this is probably the last time that needs to happen.
He asserted his dominance at that point.
No, it wasn't so much that. It was just like,
They're not
all right,
chiropractors close by.
This is over. Yeah. All right. So the weirdest thing that happened yesterday in pro sports is that the Denver Nuggets, out of nowhere in the afternoon, fired Michael Malone, who led the team to an NBA championship 22 months ago, and they said they're not going to renew the contract of Calvin Booth, the general manager, and his contract is set to run out. And we are 3 games before the start of the postseason, Kevin.
Honestly, I thought it was you telling me that Hunter Dickinson was getting his 7th year to play college basketball.
Same thing.
That would have been crazy.
That counts as pro, right?
When I saw the headline there, I literally thought it was April Fool's. I guess the biggest thing is I don't get the why now. Why on April 8th? Like what, when teams tend to do this, there probably is a little bit of A, you're trying to send a message, and B, in some cases, you do want to get a look at a younger assistant. I mean, what look are you getting with 5 days left in the regular season?
Yeah, here you go.
I just, not to mention, I don't know if people fully realize, like, Michael Malone, I don't want to act like Michael Malone discovered Nikola Jokic, but early in that career, or early in that tenure at Denver, I mean, they had Nurkic was actually the other guy that they had, and Malone was one of the early believers in Jokic, who wasn't the first-round pick. He wasn't this lottery pick. He's like, no, there's something there with this kid. We need to play him a little bit more early on. So that relationship, by all means, seems to be one that, I don't know, maybe it's waned over the years, but yeah, just stunned. I don't get why now, I guess is kind of the biggest thing. But, I mean, the NBA never ceases to amaze. I mean, from the Luka stuff earlier this year, the Taylor Jenkins thing doesn't even seem to register on the Richter scale when you look at it from this standpoint. And also their GM, Calvin Booth and Michael Malone, both axed yesterday. And, Denver's very much in the thick of whatever Western Conference playoff race there is.
Yeah, Tony had this tweet, Tony East that is, where he's like, Rick Carlisle, hired by the Pacers in June of 2021, is now the 9th longest tenured head coach with his current NBA team. I was like, wow,
Yeah,
like that
crazy.
is something to say. I mean, that wasn't that long ago.
I mean, Malone is what? Right up there with Kerr, and I mean, it probably goes what? Popovich, Spoelstra, Kerr, and then I would have guessed Malone might have been right there. As the longest tenured coach in the league.
Because from what I understand, actually, no, this is a fact. This will be the first time that Nikola Jokic is a different head coach in his career. And I know it might seem like Jokic is, relatively like he just came on, but he's been in the league for quite a while now. Like he's not some spring chicken. And so it is shocking, but at the same time, no rest for the weary. So they have to go right into the playoffs. And I mean, for our purposes, you're like, that's the Western Conference. So we'll deal with that if you make it there. You know what I mean? So a tough break. And all the jokes I saw online yesterday were just like, did the Pacers break the Nuggets? And I'm like, I don't know if that's, a bridge too far, but it certainly didn't help, losing that game in that fashion against the Pacers.
Well, the Eastern Conference playoffs are almost upon us, and it looks more and more, as we said a moment ago, the Indiana Pacers, Kevin, are going to be in the 4th spot, probably playing the Milwaukee Bucks in that 5th spot in the first round. And Milwaukee, even without Dame Lillard, like lately over the last 2 weeks, Giannis is like, get on my back, let's go.
I want to say the 2 longest win streaks, I'm not sure if it's the NBA, maybe it's just the East, are the Pacers and the Bucks right now, both having won 5 in a row. So, obviously the Lillard injury situation doesn't look, promising for his return. With Milwaukee, I mean, what they are is, they are a big basketball team. I hate to kind of like elementary it out that way, but they are like, they honestly lack ball handlers. Probably is where Indiana could try to expose them a little bit. Do you pick them up a little bit more full court? I do think the Kevin Porter Jr. pickup has been good for them, but this is not a team full of ball handlers. Now, again, they counter that with great length, and they're going to throw that at Tyrese Halliburton, full well.
Yeah.
We've seen the Bucks go with a lot of zone against the Pacers as well. So that would be a wrinkle that they do throw at Indiana if and when this matchup does happen. And this year, which is different from last year, A, obviously Giannis is expected to be playing, of course, but B, you didn't have the regular season success like you did. Honestly, the Pacers did to Milwaukee last year a little bit, I guess what you could say they might have done to Michael Malone on Sunday. Remember, the Pacers helped get the Doc Rivers and who was it, Darvin Ham? I'm trying to even think who the coach was of the Bucks last season.
It was Adrian Griffin.
Adrian Griffin, thank you.
Yeah.
When they got him, axed, early in the year with the in-season tournament and the ball gate and all that stuff.
How many head coaches is Giannis going to go through right now, though, too, the last several years since they won their championship?
I don't know, but when you're Giannis,
right?
you can just ask for what you want at that point. I mean, when you win the first title in 50 years, I guess that gives you a long leash. And he's playing out of his mind. He is terrifying. I know I was like, man, I'd rather see the Bucks without Dame. And I'm like, man, I know you guys are saying, do you want to see Giannis? And I'm like, dude, I don't know if I want to see that man. So it looks like that could be the matchup. I know, barring something crazy, that's probably in all likelihood what's going to happen. Either way, I thought it was going to be a great first-round matchup if it was the Pacers or in the Pistons, Pacers, and the Bucks, obviously. So we'll see. But I think I'm at that point now. I think yesterday's game kind of solidified it, where I'm like, they looked bored. The game was bad basketball. They looked bored.
I
I'm
would
like,
say
just
I am
get over
bored.
it.
I'm just ready to be
We all are.
in the postseason. That's why I felt like I was so locked into Sunday against Denver. I'm like, finally, this type of opponent
Yeah, I agree with
is
that.
appearing on the schedule. Here we go. And it was, I think you can laugh at it now because the result was a win last night. But I will say there were a couple of moments in the game last night where, although Rick Carlisle wasn't getting teed up and maybe you didn't see his demonstrative, personality outwardly on the court, you saw how pissed off he was with his actions. Johnny Furphy was in the game to start the second quarter. I mean, you were a healthy bunch last night outside of Shepherd, and you were playing Johnny Furphy to start the second quarter. He made Thomas Bryant at one point give a foul to take a timeout. That's something you rarely see in the NBA.
Yeah.
Especially from Carlisle. Carlisle's timeouts usually come with, whatever. Guys hit a three or guys hit a layup, and he's all the way out at the foul line taking a timeout. He took that timeout after how disgusted he was with an offensive trip down the floor. There was another sequence last night where I think the Wizards might have had 4 offensive rebounds. I was like, oh, my gosh. So,
And they missed every shot. They didn't even score on that
shot.
possession.
I know. It just sums up who the Wizards are.
You guys even remember back in March, the beginning of March, they had that 3-game road trip, 2 in Atlanta and 1 at Chicago, and they lost all 3. Remember that? They are 13-3 since then.
I know.
Their only bad loss really since then, if you want to call it bad, was they got beat by 22 on the road at Oklahoma City. But other than that, even the 2 other losses were close games.
They've been playing really good basketball. I don't think a lot of teams want to see the Pacers in the playoffs because of how they've been playing, and I will continue to, stay on this hype train. Tyrese Halliburton, at least 3rd team All-NBA. I think that's exactly what he has earned. I don't know if he's been, much better than that. I've seen some people like, oh, he should be 2nd team. That's pushing it because the entire season counts. But I think with the way he's continued to play, he's earned serious consideration for that All-NBA 3rd team.
Kevin, those 3 losses at Milwaukee, at Oklahoma City, and the Lakers on that tip-in by LeBron James, I mean, they're playing really good playoff-level basketball right now.
Yeah, again, I think the hardest thing is just, there's not, outside of Denver, I feel like they haven't played enough of the playoff-caliber opponents. It's like, and that's where I just struggle right now. It's like, what do you make of last night? What do you make of 162 against the Wizards? There's a level of, yeah, I'm obviously impressed that, they continue to win, but it's just, the schedule just lacks a little bit of, oomph, if you will, here. But, I thought one of the big storylines yesterday or this week in general was I was curious when Siakam would get back in the lineup. He missed 1 game due to the elbow issue. And early on last night, he was outstanding. I think he had your first 8. And then, again, Rick went back to him late, and he had a couple big buckets there at the rim. So, the reminder playoff time, especially with a guy like Siakam, who I do think has looked tired here late in the season, you don't have the back-to-backs. You have a lot of these 2 nights off, even 3 nights off. So I think that is critical for certainly one of your more important players last night. And just shout out to the Wizards. I mean, that open tank job was so impressive last
Nasty
night.
work.
It was discreet. It was unbelievable to watch unfold. Jordan Poole has 19 points in 19 minutes. They're up 14 midway through the 3rd quarter. Wizards are up 13 points. Jordan Poole goes to the bench, never to be seen again.
And that lead went away like in a hurry, too.
Alex Sarr, arguably the best player on the floor last night for the Wizards. You would think a young team like that, Sarr was what, the 2nd overall pick?
Yes.
You would think you'd want to expose him into some of these, close game
Late
situations.
games. Yeah.
They're leading by 3, 6 minutes ago. Sarr, again, is playing very well in the 4th quarter. He goes to the bench. Magically never returns.
Yeah. We can get you those reps in practice with, a dwindled shot clock.
Right, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Wizards are down 2 possessions with about 20 seconds to go. How dare they foul and try to extend the game? Why would they ever want to do that? It was unbelievable to watch it firsthand last night, the Wizards outwardly tanking.
3 games remaining, JB. Cleveland twice, sandwiched around 1 at home against Orlando. Now that we have a pretty good idea, they need to win at least 1 more game or get a Milwaukee loss to clinch that 4th spot. But really, other than that, What do you want to see from the Pacers in these next 3 games? Because it's that weird spot of you don't want to take the foot off the pedal too much going into the postseason, but you also want to get guys ready to go for the postseason.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but would you consider resting guys like that last game of the season? Like if they're able to get the, next win and they lock up that 4 seed, do you seriously consider sitting some guys?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If they're banged up, sure.
Well, I mean, especially with the back-to-back, right? Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, tomorrow you could be locked into a seed. I don't believe anything tonight on the NBA schedule will lock you into a seed. So tomorrow, and I actually think tomorrow night's a TNT game, if I'm not mistaken. I could see Cleveland and Indiana both playing their frontline guys tomorrow, but then certainly Friday is a back-to-back, and then you face Cleveland and the regular season again on Sunday. I could see that. Now, some might counter, James, and say this. The NBA has a full week off for the non-playing teams.
Yeah, I was going to say,
so the Pacers
the rest
will play,
versus rust.
The Pacers' 82nd game will be Sunday afternoon. Their first playoff game is looking to be either a week from Saturday or a week from Sunday inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. So you'll have 6 to 7 days off between the end of the regular season to the playoff game. Does that factor into it at all?
Either way, I'll be watching when we're at West 56th Street getting ready for the draft, KB.
Was that the Nemhard shot we watched last year?
Yes,
at the draft?
yes. And
Game 3, right, of the Knicks series?
We were all hoping they would trade back so that we could continue to watch the game.
Right? That was the A.D. Mitchell trade back?
Yeah. That was a crazy day.
What do you think? I know we talked about it briefly yesterday, but I want to go back to it. Again, it's an annual thing that I do, the positional mock draft. I had tight end round 1. So basically what I try to do is rate the draft picks in order. Obviously, the first round's your most important need, is kind of how I view it. So I would say tight end there. I guess let's start there, James. Would you agree with that? Would you put another position in round 1 other than tight end, or are you nodding your head yes at that?
Quarterback. No, I'm joking. I would say tight end is the obvious choice when it comes to, maybe it's not the biggest need for other teams or seen around the league as a huge need as far as other positions, but for the Colts, yes, number 1, far and away, because you just haven't filled it at all. I think you make an argument for other positions that you might have a dude or two. You don't have anybody at tight end that I believe in to start for this team.
And again, in my opinion, you have to treat like Jelani Woods isn't on your football team, given his injury history. Okay, where would you go round 2? Because this is where I started to get a little bit. I just didn't have as much conviction once I started to get to round 2, round 3,
I can kind of see and be with you on that. I would throw out there that maybe I go offensive line, 2nd round. And I know it isn't sexy, but
specifically guard,
yeah,
or are you a little bit more Braden Smith insurance at tackle?
I'll probably go right guard. Because, assuming Braden Smith, and again, shout out to Joel A. Erickson, go read his story in Indy Star about Braden's OCD that he dealt with and has found treatment for on the road to recovery and dealing with it in a much healthier way. Again, just a fantastic, really humanizing story about the whole situation from last year, why Braden was away from the team. Go read that. But assuming he's okay, the team is okay with what he's went through, I don't mind getting a little insurance maybe later on for him. But that right guard spot, man, they have been like mum on. And whenever they're pretty mum, that leads me to believe it's a bigger need than maybe they want to tell or admit. So I would definitely say right guard is probably my number 2.
I debated D-line, I debated linebacker, and I debated right guard. To your point there, James, I think you could make a strong case, honestly, for any of those 3 in round 2. I'm going to wait. I probably am going to side with Chris Ballard a little bit more and say, hey, we feel like there's good offensive line depth in the middle-ish rounds. So I went with D-line. I just think that I have some present questions about the D-line, but I certainly have some future questions about the D-line.
Yeah,
again,
isn't
the
it
only defensive end under contract is Latu from a defensive end standpoint. And, Buckner and Grover just aren't getting any younger. And I don't think those guys are, to use the Augusta National sort of analogy, I don't think they're walking up the 18th hole. But
I like that.
I think they're probably, on 15 or 16. And I don't think you can ignore that. So
You can't.
It's a position group you obviously rotate a whole lot at. They lost the guy that played the most snaps of anybody in that room last year in Dayo Dengbo. So I ended up going D-line there in round 2. My order was D-line 2, linebacker 3, and then right guard 4. I do think they're interchangeable, but that's what I ended up going with.
And so much of it depends, obviously, on how things fall in front of you. Maybe there's a guy you really like at one of those positions, and that guy gets poached, and so there's a guy you like at another position. That's obvious how that goes. But I'm curious too, Kevin, the thinking of adding so much to the secondary, especially, and knowing that you've got questions all over the place at quarterback. Does that offensive line become just a little bit more elevated in Chris Ballard's mind that he's addressed the defense a little bit, but I really want to take care of my quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, this time last year, think about it, guys. It was corner, corner, corner. Every mock draft you looked at pretty much had the Colts taking a corner there at 15, and you really did nothing. I mean, you cut the two corners you drafted on day 3 last year, and Jalen Simpson and Micah Abraham. And so fast forward now to this offseason. Well, you went out and you paid top dollar for Charvarius Ward. And, even Corey Ballantyne adds a little bit of depth there. So I don't look at corner with as much pressing urgency and need as it was certainly this time last year. So, a defensive back pick, maybe at safety. I think you lack a little bit of depth there at some point in the draft. But, yeah, I think with what you did in free agency, you could probably, push corner a little bit more to the back burner.
Here's a question for both of you, too. I've seen, and again, this is just media musings and things like that, but it feels like people are really liking the Loveland kid, Colston Loveland at tight end, maybe even a little bit more than Warren at this point in time. I saw one interesting article where the writer was saying, great player, Warren, not taking anything away. He's still a first-round pick, but Michigan did so many, Penn State did so many things to make sure he got the ball, kind of almost gadget-type things to make sure he was getting the ball, where Loveland is just a pure athlete that just you line him up and he goes and he goes out on a route and he catches passes. And he can block, too. Thoughts there?
Yeah, so when I talk to anybody in the draft landscape about these two, Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, there isn't this big gap between them. And I think that they're, at least among the Colts fan base, they're in their mind there is. But I think a lot of it, to give the Colts fan base some credit here, is how it fits within this offense. And in this offense, which will still be a run-first offense in my opinion, you probably want the guy more like Tyler Warren, who is the blocker, can also line up and get outside and catch some passes and things like that. It maybe gives you more of the illusion of just the upper hand when it comes to picking and choosing your spots. Whereas with Colston, a lot of his success came from, being a wide receiver type of tight end. I'm not saying he can't block. He'll have to grow in that area like most tight ends, but I think that Tyler Warren's just more ready-made to be ready to go. But, yeah, when I talked to Dane Brugler about this specifically, and, again, go read the Beast and check it out, he was, basically saying it's a preference when it comes to those two. And the preference for the Colts, and this is his words, not mine, should be Tyler Warren.
Yeah, I think Warren probably gives you a little bit more of a, hey, you line up with 11 people in your huddle. You don't necessarily know if you're tipping your hand as much as as a run play or pass play. Now, some of the Loveland camp would probably counter and say, well, the shoulder issue contributed to him maybe not excelling as a blocker to the level that you would want. I also found it, and again, watching the Michigan offense last year was about as horrid as watching that Pacers-Wizards game last night. But if you look at it, Michigan's 3 worst passing games last season all came with Colston Loveland out. So when he played, that offense actually had, to call it life would be way too much of a compliment to call the Michigan offense life last season, but they had something. Whereas with Loveland not in the lineup, they didn't have any of that. So that is probably something to keep in mind as well.
All right, we're going to talk to Stephen Holder about all things Colts coming up in just a few minutes as well. Mike DeCourcy will join us later on in the program to put a big bow on the college basketball season and give us a look ahead to what Indiana and Purdue might be doing over the next couple of weeks as they start to get ready for the next season as well. You're listening to the Fan Morning Show with KBJB Jeff, Mark Dykton on the ones and twos. This is 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Favorite week of the year for one Kevin Bowen. The Masters getting ready to tee off tomorrow morning, bright and early. You are 24 hours away. You are in full Masters garb, head to toe. You got the T-shirt on there. It says very nice material. You got the sewn on logo there from 2011. Why 2011? Did you get a chance to go check that out?
I got this at Goodwill.
Okay. Did you really?
No, I was actually there in 2011.
So
yeah, it stood in a merchandise line for way too long and bought this T-shirt that was probably way too expensive. But hey, 13 years later, it still fits.
I was going to ask you that, like, do they have like a store for? I would assume people to get like memorabilia or something. Like, I don't know.
It's rather insane, to be honest with you. I know a lot is made about how cheap the food prices are, but the merchandise is just astronomical.
I'm looking at those real quick. Most expensive sandwich item is the classic chicken for $3. You can also get ham and cheese on rye for $3. The chicken salad on honey wheat, $3.
Is the food good? Did you have any of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I mean, for that price, I mean, frankly, how much you're paying for a ticket, I would like to think food would almost be free, which, granted, in today's sporting event culture, it probably is. But my neighbor brought me back this hat last year.
Oh,
nice.
Like that.
I like that a lot.
Most expensive item on the menu, beverage, white wine, $6. Now, you don't seem to be a white wine guy, JB.
I don't even drink. I mean, I've told this over before. The Colts gave us.
Are that many people buying white wine at a golf tournament?
Dude, the Colts gave us rosé. I didn't know it was wine. So Joel Erickson, what are you doing with that wine? I was like, this is rosé. Joel, stay out of this. And he's like, that's wine, James. Like, put it back because you don't know what you're doing. So, yeah. Stephen Holder was there for that as well. I know he's on the line. So, Stephen, I'm sharing my knowledge of alcohol with the people on the airwaves. What do you think about that?
I'm going to guess Stephen took the dark stuff just like I did.
Completely embarrassing.
Oh, man. That's harsh.
But I'm not shaming you into drinking because, no, that's terrible. But come on, man.
I know.
We're going to have to culture you up a little bit.
I know. It's like this with drinks, with food. They're like, dude, you haven't lived. So usually I'm following Stephen Holder or Joel Erickson on the road to some fancy place to get a good meal because they're like, you don't know what you're doing. We've done this a few times. We've done this a few years longer than you. Let us do it. So getting back to the Colts, though, Stephen, I'll start here. Joel wrote a fantastic piece on Braden Smith and offered some clarity into who Braden is, what he was going through with the OCD, and obviously being in a better place now than he was. And we have a group chat that we're in, and Stephen's like, man, you know, great story, Joel. Obviously, we can't force Braden to talk because I've tried. We've all tried for different periods of time. So what do you think of him just deciding to open up and to be that vulnerable for an audience that he really didn't have to be that vulnerable for?
No, it's fantastic. I mean, and so to give people context, right, the joke I was making there is that, like, so if you know Braden Smith, and we all do, and have been in the locker room, in my case, with him his entire career, getting Braden Smith to talk about anything is like pulling teeth. Okay, he is not exactly expansive about anything ever. So anyhow, I thought I was making light of that. Like, you got this guy to talk for like an hour. So I will say this: I talked to Braden and his wife last night. I had a great conversation with them, and it's by far the longest conversation I've ever had with the man. And I was told earlier that you're going to notice a difference in him. And I would say that's true. And so I think there's a success story here. And one of the things that he wants to continue, I think, talking about as he moves forward is how this helped him, and hopefully he can help others, you know, through dealing with this and confronting it, and how that's the hardest part sometimes. You know, I mean, because you're suffering for however long, and every day is a nightmare. How do you then confront that and tackle it? And that part's hard too, but the hardest part, or at least the most important part, I guess, would be acknowledging it, confronting it, and then figuring out a way out. And so he did that, and he's come out the other side, and he's a different person.
Stephen, I don't want to act like it's apples to apples, but at one point, Anthony Costanzo did mention retirement in his career and still elected to play. And obviously he didn't play a ton after that. And I would say a little bit, the Colts are kind of caught with their pants down and, frankly, trying to find the answer after Costanzo. With Braden Smith, he mentions to Joel, and I'm not sure if he did with you, but, he thought about that word of retirement. Now, again, he's elected not to, of course, do that. He's got 1 year left on his contract. I would argue right now, though, with Matt Gonzalez on the roster, the Colts actually have a potential insurance option there. So given all of that, how do you think this situation, if any, impacts the draft here in 2 weeks?
No, I do think that you have to talk about that position for sure. I mean, I assumed that even before knowing all those details, I think you were kind of working under that assumption because he is in the last year of his contract. I mean, that is a reality, regardless of the circumstances. So there is a business element here. I mean, heck, the Colts acknowledge there's a business element by adjusting his contract, frankly, even in light of all of this. And so even the Colts being involved in this process throughout, even from, I would say, the middle of last season, being cognizant of what he was dealing with and all of that, they still had to deal with this from a business perspective and say, look, we can't handle this cap number, and we need you to work with us. So if that doesn't tell you that this is a business, then nothing else does, right? And it's not a criticism of the Colts. I understand what they did, and Braden Smith was fine with it, went along with it clearly. He wants to be here. There's no animosity, okay? Let me be very, very clear. In fact, he credited the team greatly for helping him through this. So, but it is an acknowledgement of what the situation is. I think the offensive line is a priority, or should be a priority in this draft. You've got a couple things going on. You lost 2 starters. I know that there's a lot of presumption among fans that you have those 2 rookies from last season that just plug right in, and boom, everybody lives happily ever after. Well, at minimum, now you have no depth. Okay, who's the 6th offensive lineman? Who's the 7th? That matters, and you've got to address that. At minimum, that's where they are, okay? You've got to address that in this draft.
Stephen Holder, ESPN.com, with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Stephen, do you think they take a quarterback or a running back earlier in the draft?
That is a good question. I think it would be, I think the quarterback is probably the bigger priority, just because I just don't think you can feel good about where you are at that position. The problem is there's just not a lot of availability in this draft. And so will there be a quarterback there for them to take, in an early-ish round? I don't know. That's going to be a question, because these guys are going to get pushed up into slots that are higher than they might otherwise be taken, because this is not a great class. So maybe I say running back just based on that way of thinking, but not because I think it's necessarily more important, even though I think they do need to draft one with, a middle round-ish kind of pick.
Stephen, I don't know if we've had a chance to really dive into this, at least since I've been back in town. We've been back in town, but your reaction to, I believe it was you who asked the question to Chris Ballard, is the best case scenario for Anthony Richardson to win this job and to give you some clarity and some longevity at that position, which you haven't had since Andrew Luck. And his response was, well, the best scenario is the quarterback who wins the most games. So how did you sort of digest that, and what could that mean for Anthony as he gears up for what they're telling us isn't a make or break year for him, but we all know it is for him?
So, all right, full disclosure, that question was kind of a trap.
It was.
So
it certainly was.
I was trying to make the point that, everything or so much hinges on whether this guy works out or not.
Yeah.
And again, I'll say it again. I said this to JMV the other day. If we get to the end of 2025, the 2025 season, and Anthony Richardson is not the starter, then what are we even doing? Right? I mean, who's the quarterback in 2026? I don't know. It's someone who's probably not on the roster. So that's where they're at. And if they get to that place and they haven't won a ton of games, where are you and Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard? Frankly, that's kind of what I was getting at. And I think he knew that. He's not an idiot. And that's why I think his answer was what it was, which is the best case scenario is that we win games. In other words, I don't care how we get there. We just got to win. it is kind of an acknowledgement that, buddy, I got bigger fish to fry. and the bigger fish to fry is I got to win because we're on the hot seat, and also because they haven't won enough just generally, right? So even if you take that out of it. So I think, I don't know what it says specifically about Anthony Richardson. I think the bigger takeaway is that it's an acknowledgement that they don't have time to screw around, and maybe none of this even matters because they have to win, period. And so I think that is very telling in itself.
Stephen, last one for me, and again, Stephen Holder with us here from ESPN. You know, we saw the clip from Hard Knocks last year where the Giants are receiving this call from the Colts. The Colts were trying to trade up into the top 10, and obviously that didn't come to fruition, but clearly there was some interest from the Colts. So I bring that up to go back to Chris Ballard's season-ending press conference in January. I thought his thoughts on his defensive unit was a bit different, and then the actions have played out with Lou Anarumo here and Gus Bradley gone. I thought his free agency words were very different, and certainly we saw that with Cam Bynum and Travarius Ward. I didn't think the draft words sounded very different, though. So that's where I'm a little torn. I'm like, I don't think he views his draft history as that big of an issue, so I'm not expecting a whole lot of different from the draft, I guess is what I'm saying in 2 weeks. But then there's a little bird on my shoulder that says, well, wait a minute. Had the Giants said yes, we're not talking about Laiatu Latu. We're talking about Malik Neighbors or Brock Bowers or something totally different here inside of that building. Where do you kind of stand in terms of Ballard and the draft philosophy, if it will change at all?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think we should pay a lot of attention to that effort to trade up. Now, how hard did they try? That's always hard to tell, because attempting to trade up is one thing. Making an offer that really makes someone stop in their tracks is a different thing, right? And I don't know what the offer was, so who knows? But do you really, the Chris Ballard that we know generally or historically, he doesn't even make that call, right? So that was a departure, and maybe that was the first indication that maybe this guy was feeling a little pressure. I don't know. I have no idea, but it was definitely different. It was certainly different. So I'm with you. I don't think that Chris Ballard views his draft history as problematic, and that's okay. I think that's actually been the thing he's been the best at. So I understand that, but it's more about the overall picture. I think if you look at the overall picture and the overall situation, what we just talked about, for example, right, which is that sort of subtle admission that, like, hey, buddy, we got to win. I think if you just use that as your starting point for everything, then I think it's possible that everything Chris Ballard does and touches could be different, could have a different approach, because that's the seriousness of the situation just kind of calls for it. So I am not necessarily looking at this as being a standard run-of-the-mill Chris Ballard draft, because it's not a run-of-the-mill situation for Chris Ballard.
In fairness to Chris Ballard, which I'm sure Colts fans are probably like, oh, this guy. You were not the only one who has asked questions like that, Stephen Holder. I've done it a lot myself, and we all get the same look. Like, and if I was in his shoes, I'd be thinking, what the heck, man? What do you want me to say to this answer or this response? So we do kind of box him in sometimes, where it's like, what are you supposed to say? You're coaching an entire team, or you're, building a roster of an entire team, so you can't cater to one player. When that one player, in this case Anthony, has kind of struggled throughout his first 2 years. But I'll leave you with this, Stephen. I know you're cover the Colts, but we did talk about the Pacers earlier. What do you think of Quinn Buckner's smothered chicken call? Hard-hitting journalism here at 8:15 in the morning.
Mark, you want to cue it up, because I really hope Stephen had better things to do last night than lock into Pacers Wizards in the first half.
I actually was watching. But go ahead.
He was.
Oh my gosh.
And blocked by smothered chicken. Please give me some smothered chicken on that one.
Did you laugh as hard as I did? Because that is the greatest call in the history of sports. I don't care, but what'd you think of it? And I guess getting to a more grander Pacers question, then preparing for the playoffs. How do you feel about their chances of not only like taking advantage of that first round matchup, but getting out of the first round?
Well, first of all, let's just say that this comment put puts Quinn Buckner's age in perspective, because smothered chicken is not a reference that like a millennial would use, right? So he's definitely an old dude, right? We love Quinn Buckner, but that dude's old. Okay?
Wow.
That's
So true. I've never heard of a human
person
under the
to say,
age of 45 say that in my
Yeah.
life.
So, I mean, like, I don't know the last time I had smothered chicken, but it does sound pretty good. So I would say, look, it is a uniquely Quinn Buckner comment. That is for sure. It is definitely unique to him. It is authentic. All right. So we cannot take that away from him. If you love him, if you don't love him, the one thing you can't say is there's nobody like him. And for that, we appreciate him. I would say, look, I'm kind of excited about the Pacers playoffs, man. I got an email yesterday. I guess I'm on deck, so I might get the call up from ESPN to do some Pacers. I'm like, hey, let's do it, man. I think they're an exciting team, man. And you know, I will say this, look, they're not a good defensive team, right? But the one thing that I noticed that they have done in some key moments here in the second half of the season is they have gotten some stops at key moments that have enabled them to win close games. And I just don't feel like I felt that was something you could count on them before to do. And I don't, maybe that's just recency bias from me. I don't know, but it does. I do remember very specific situations, you know, down the stretch here where I'm like, you know what? That was a close game, and they were giving up lots of points throughout the night, and I just didn't see a way they could get enough stops to win. And somehow they did. They get a stop here and a stop there, and that boom, they win. Because the offense is not the problem. It's like, can they get the stops? And they have in some key moments. So look, even if they give up 46% shooting on the night, if you can get that key stop at a key moment, sometimes it's enough with the way they can score. So I'm looking forward to see if that can continue in the playoffs, because that's going to be number one. They're going to have to be able to do that against, obviously, top-notch offenses.
I think that's a great point. I bet in the last month they've got to be, I don't know, 10-1. I am just throwing out a record here in terms of clutch games outside of the Lakers. Yeah. I can't recall many that have gone the other way. Stephen Holder's work on ESPN, you can find it, and we are 2 weeks and 1 day away from the 2025 NFL Draft. Stephen, as always, thank you, sir.
All right, guys. See you soon.
Stephen Holder, Payless Liquors Hotline. And last night, you know, the guys finishing, if you will, for the Pacers. Yeah, Siakam had a couple buckets at the rim, but how about the corner three from Nesmith? And then Nesmith iced it, and Turner said, let's all cheers to drinks in the locker room afterwards. Like, Turner really iced it with another one.
And he had missed a ton of shots before that, made a huge one. And again, that's why I give Miles his flowers, man. I feel like he if you stick with him, he usually will benefit you more than he'll hurt you. So shout out to Miles. That was fun.
All right, Stephen Holder on the Payless Liquors Hotline joining us this morning to talk a little bit about the Colts and all things blue and white. In the meantime, let's check it down, Mark.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
Kevin, you were talking about it a moment ago. Pacers win at the Fieldhouse over the Wizards, 104-98 last night. It's a 5-game win streak. Pascal Siakam, 24 points, 10 boards. Tyrese Halliburton had 21. And it was just a weird game where, as you've pointed out a couple of times today, Washington was clearly like, oh, wait, we have the lead. We don't want the lead. We want to lose as many games as possible. Let's just sit anybody and everybody that any sports fan has ever heard of and get them out of the game.
Flawless in-game tanking by, is it Brian O'Keefe? Is that the guy's name?
Sure.
The head coach of the Wizards?
Sure.
Why not? Yes, Jordan Poole up 14 midway through the third quarter. He's got 19 points in 19 minutes. We'll never see Jordan Poole ever again. He goes to the bench. Up 3 with 6 minutes to go. Alex Sarr has arguably been the best player on the floor, period. Either team last night will sit our number 2 overall pick for the final 6 minutes of the game. So flawless by the Wizards. And that's, nonetheless, the Pacers get a win. That is 5 straight, as Jeff said. 12 of 13, I think, at home. Maybe 13 of 14 at home. And that's 48 wins, and that eclipses last year's win total. If they get one more, it'll be their most wins in a decade and will clinch that home court in round 1.
Brian Keefe is his name, by the way.
Keefe.
There you go.
Sean O'Keefe might be a parent on my kid's soccer team.
Milwaukee beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 110-103 last night. Giannis had 23, 13, and 10 assists for a triple-double. They've won 5 games in a row, and JB, more and more, that's looking like the first-round opponent for the Pacers, who would have home court advantage if they get one more win or one more Milwaukee loss.
Let's do it. You come to Gainbridge Fieldhouse, we serving smothered chicken. So, I mean, it's whatever you want it to be.
You got Patrick Beverly sitting in the stands for this one.
Exactly. Oh, my goodness. Can he be on the premises, for this game? Or will they suspend him by proxy? So, it should be a fun matchup. If that is the case, you'll get the box office superstar in Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you'll get the very fun and fluid Pacers offense with their own superstar in Tyrese Halliburton.
And I don't.
Smothered chicken! Please give me some smothered chicken on that one.
I don't know how many people care about this, but for those that, do want to see the Pacers more in a national TV spotlight, I would think a series against Giannis would offer a little bit more of that
This
than a
is true.
series with the Pistons. So,
yeah, and like those. Do they still do the weird blackouts? Like if it's on NBA TV
occasionally.
Yeah.
So again, maybe some people care about that. That could be happening as well.
Don't we have to get smothered chicken somewhere in a concession area?
I'm
at the
serious.
Fieldhouse at
All
this
Quinn
point in
has to
time?
do is just ask for it. I have people in the chat saying you got to do it and do the full impression. It's like I can't, impersonate Quinn for the entire show, people. But
Caliendo, Molinaro, Boyd. Those are impersonators.
But yeah, I think it should be a playoff perk or something like that we can throw out there for the fans. I'd certainly purchase it.
I like it. 3 games remaining for the Pacers. 2 against Cleveland, sandwiched around 1 against Orlando. And it'll be interesting to see how they approach that if they can clinch that 4th playoff spot and get home court advantage in the first round. Major League Baseball. For the second night in a row, KB, our Reds throw a shutout against the San Francisco Giants.
Hottest team in baseball. Mark, I would appreciate a little audio to maybe back that
I
up.
congratulate on your win. That's all you need.
Do you see how they have to win? I mean, winning is winning, but my goodness, it's
Hey,
always
James Boyd.
Nothing like really stretching the gap
We
there.
take
1-0.
them and run. Hey, great pitching.
You
Here
want to
the
talk about
last couple of nights, the Cubs, their bats continue. Mark, I will take the high road, unlike you, towards me.
Ooh.
10-6 over the Rangers.
Red hot.
And I did see this news item yesterday. I know maybe not the greatest Major League Baseball player of all time, but I certainly remember Octavio Dotel, the pitcher from the Dominican Republic. Just tragic death, a collapse of a ceiling there, I believe at a nightclub in the Dominican.
He was
there.
involved in that? I did not see that.
Yeah.
I saw the incident, but not that.
I always just have such vivid memories and images of his wind-up.
Yeah.
It was something that always kind of stood out to me. So rest in peace to former Major League Baseball pitcher Octavio Dotel.
I had read about that collapse of the building. I did not know that he was involved in that.
Yeah.
Tragic that all those people
Tony Blanco,
lost their
also, who's a
lives.
former major leaguer, was involved in
Really?
that as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I didn't realize that.
That's
more
not
than
good stuff.
110 people passed away.
Yeah, I mean, horrific.
Yeah. Louisville Bats beat the Indians last night 4-2. They were on the road, the Indians, where they'll play again tonight. All right, coming up in a minute. Are you ready? Do you have your number 2 pencil, your eraser, everything you need for the upcoming Masters draft?
Mark, what do you think? Random number generator to get an order here? And
Sure,
are we just
we
going
can do
to
that in the
snake it
break.
up like we did for the
Yeah.
backup quarterback draft?
Yeah, I think that's how you do it.
Okay.
And just 4 golfers at your leisure,
3 or
right?
4?
3, right?
3?
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 for the 4 of us.
Correct.
That.
As a French Lick legend once said, who's coming in second?
Look at that. I thought you were making a French Lick golf course reference there. Pete Dye, of course, great.
You are feeling your smothered chicken self today.
Boy, you might as well fit him for the green jacket now.
There you go.
Man, why, should you and I stay involved in
Literally,
this or what,
yeah.
man?
Jeez.
All right, that comes your
I'll
way
watch
next.
Live this weekend.
It's the Fan Morning Show, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
After much discussion, great detailed planning, we've decided to extend the Masters draft to 2 days, Kevin Bowen.
Yeah, I think we're going to go we'll go 2 rounds right here, and then we'll do our final round tomorrow. Mark Dykton, you've queued up a generator here for us. Not an actual generator, but a draft generator. Again, just to remind everybody, we'll do a 3-team draft. So there's 4 of us here in studio. You'll get 3 players on each of these teams, and lowest score. We'll add them all up. Lowest score wins. What? If you got one guy that misses the cut, you're screwed.
Yeah.
How about that?
That works.
Cool with me.
Ready
Mark
to go?
Dykton, go ahead and generate it up, and this person will decide which pick they would have in the snake.
Oh, look, there's sound to it. I didn't even know that.
Wow.
This is fancy.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh,
Like I'm
this is
playing,
smothered
I feel like
chicken
I'm playing
stuff here.
Mario.
That's a memory right there. Cool
Jeffrey
memory.
Clifton Rickard, you are the first. I don't even know if that's your middle name. But yeah,
Clifton?
you've got the first
Wow.
pick or whatever you want.
Sounds like the winner of the 3rd Masters. Jeff, what number pick you want? 1, 2, 3, or 4 in our
I'm-
snake draft?
I'm going to take pick number 3. How about that?
Okay.
Interesting. Boy, that's chess, not checkers there.
All right, let's
See what we
see. Let's
got.
remove Jeff. Let's get him out of there. Okay, let's see. We've got.
This Donkey Kong eats a
I
banana.
know it goes to James. So James, where do you want to go?
Oh, 1.
One. Look at,
I'm not doing this again.
You've learned your lesson.
For our
from the-
backup quarterback draft, James went with the end of the snake. And
Who'd you take, by the way, in that draft?
Who knows? At this point, it was somebody not good. I
Kevin
would imagine.
Minshew, Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
Kevin, you are up. Yes, so whatever you want, second or fourth.
I'll take the end of it. 4.
All right.
Of course you will.
That leaves
All
you.
right, we are ready to go.
All
So I guess that leaves to James to make his first selection here. Let's cue it up. We're gonna do it. Let's do it right.
That's heaven.
Oh yes,
I mean,
I'm gonna go Scotty Scheffler. But catch is, I want him to go be arrested before he goes out there to play. So he's extra fired
by
up.
the way, did you guys see Scotty last night at the Masters Champions dinner? It looked like just straight bourbon in the old drink there. I'm thinking, boy, if Scotty's going that at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday here, that man's feeling himself early in the week. Scotty Scheffler, the defending champ.
That menu that we went through, his Masters dinner was exquisite.
Yeah, that was crazy.
We all could get on board with that, right?
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Well, if Scotty Scheffler is off the board, I will take the next favorite. I'll take Rory McIlroy.
No
Okay.
shock with either of those first 2 picks. Jeff
Chalky,
is kinda,
chalky.
don't they say that the draft starts here, if you will?
Yes.
Here we go. Jeff Rickard at pick 3.
All right. I am going to go with Xander Schauffele.
That's a little Xander action there. Okay, I have am I going back to back here?
Yes.
All right, give me Colin Morikawa
I knew you'd take him.
and give me Justin Thomas. Gosh, I don't know if I like that.
It's been said now. It's in the ether. You can't.
I know.
Back to Jeff.
I'm going to go with Ludwig Aberg.
Okay.
We might need to check the pronunciation guide on Mr. Aubert there, but yes. The Swede.
I will go John Rahm.
You going live?
Yeah. He's available. I'll take him. I know nothing of what he's done since he went to live, but I'll take a shot.
James
Back to
Boyd to
James.
round out our 2-round draft here on this Wednesday morning.
I'm going to go Thomas Dietrich from Illinois.
Look at this.
I remember that name.
How
They
about
actually had a
that?
powerhouse program. Won a lot of Big Ten titles.
Illinois can play some golf. That is
Yeah.
an understatement, James Boyd. I love
Man.
that. The Belgium pick, Thomas Dietrich.
There you go.
We've got an international flair here, that's for sure.
Chestnut checkers. Mark, would you like to read off so far through 2 rounds where we're at?
Scotty Scheffler and Thomas Dietrich go to James. I took Rory and John Rahm. Jeff took Xander Schauffele and Ludwig Aberg. And then Kevin took Colin Morikawa and Justin Thomas, which he immediately hated that decision.
Way
Right,
back
is
your
that fair?
guys.
But the
Kevin.
other guy I thought about is still on the board. So I can
You want to think out loud so I can take him?
I can sleep well tonight. Well, if James is going with Illinois golfers here, I'm trying to think. Thomas Peters in the field. I'm trying to think
There's
who
a
else.
few. There's a few.
Who else from the Fighting Illini? Shout out to Jason Hammer. He just texted, and Jason Hammer we know loves a good bet or two.
Yeah.
They have selected Shane Lowry as their Masters
Ooh.
pick. fat, obnoxious Irishman. I don't know if he's drunk or not, but I'm really hoping that he is. I think Shane Lowry's a terrific pick.
That's the best way to do it on the golf course, too, is get hammered, and then you're like, I played pretty good today.
That's how it works. That's the plan.
Check that scorecard again.
So we'll round it out with one more tomorrow?
Yep.
Sure. Right
so
before
you can
they
go
tee
back
off.
and forth for the next 23 hours. You can just go back
I'm going to
and
be
forth.
researching some things.
Mm-hmm.
We are due for a great Masters. Like, we haven't had the final, even when Tiger won it in 19, I think Tiger had a 2-shot lead coming to the last. It was great drama, I think, playing up to the last hole. We haven't had a playoff in a while, and we haven't had a lot of, like, hole 17, hole 18, you're tied, one back, that sort of thing. So, selfishly, we've been so fortunate. Like, Indy 500s, I mean, these finishes have been absolutely insane in the last handful of years. We have not gotten that with the Masters. So
You want one of
I'm
those
very
finishes
much
where
hoping
you
for
can
that.
barely see. Like, they've got the irises of the cameras wide open, and you can tell that the players can barely see where they're hitting the ball when it gets late after some of those.
I do want a little bit of daylight in case we need a playoff.
Yeah.
I don't want anything
what
spilling
I'm
into
saying.
Monday, but I want Nance giving me edge on my seat stuff.
I think you may get it. This is going to be wide open. One of my favorite people, Brett, just loves the draft, but he's going with Rory, Spieth, and Lowry in that order. Nobody's taken Jordan Spieth through 9
Not
selections.
yet.
How about that? You surprised by that, KB?
He's staying silent
think
over
that's the
there.
one that
so-
Kevin's got in his
he's
back
going
pocket.
Chris Ballard on us over there.
Man, I know
He's
who I'm
going
picking. I
Chris
know who I'm
Ballard
picking
on us
tomorrow.
over there. Look at, he's got the poker face on. He's not giving anything up.
Well, that also means that Justin Spieth has to last to the very last
Jordan,
pick.
It's Jordan Spieth. Yeah, I know. Now I'm thinking, should I have done this? Should I have gotten the first pick with the snake? The whole odd round snake draft is probably not the most conducive to having the final pick of
See
the
if
snake.
Jordan Spieth is still there when you,
Excuses.
get
I'm
back
getting
on the
several
board.
Just
Relax.
get my green jacket, fitted right. I need the skinny slim. I don't need just the slim. I'm skinny.
I mean,
Skinny
right
slim.
now I think the betting odds would probably favor Mark.
I'm a 38 regular.
Mark
38
going
regular.
Rory
38
Rahm
regular.
is probably where we would go with that.
Mm-hmm. No, we'll see. My luck, Rom will miss the cut right out of the gate, and I'll be done.
Wow. So anyway, there is the Masters draft at this point in time through 2 rounds. JB's got Scheffler and his Illinois brethren Dietrich, right?
Yes.
Mark, you've got McIlroy and Rahm.
Yep.
KB's got Morikawa and Thomas. I've got Schauffele and Aubert.
I believe our only state of Indiana player is Adam Schenk, who finished great last season, had a terrific final round, the Purdue product, who we had on the show. Mark, remember that?
Yeah.
We had him on the show. He was trying to decipher potentially getting from the national championship game for Purdue, which was in, Phoenix? Is that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
so.
He was trying
Last
to get
year.
from there to Augusta. That was a big debate that he had. I don't think he was ever able to pull it off, but
He was not.
nonetheless, he played so well at the Masters. If you get top 12 in the Masters, you get to come back the following year, and Adam Schenk was able to do that. So shout out to the Vincennes, Indiana product, Adam Schenk.
Let me ask you a question, because you know this probably better than anybody else in this room right here. When they had the really bad storms over the last year down in the South, the Augusta and the golf course, they were affected. And they've lost a lot of trees around some of those fairways to the point where a lot of players are saying it changes the way you can attack some of these holes at this point in time. Will that have a huge impact on the way this golf course gets played and for certain players that see the course a certain way?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. I think some players have said maybe more of an aesthetic than anything. I don't know if it would have substantial, changes to it. And knowing how Augusta National operates, I'm sure they'll just plant trees and they'll be right back where they are next year.
Because I was reading an article saying that there's just a lot of trees that used to be there that would affect your approach into a green that just aren't there anymore.
Yeah. Again, I think it might be a tad overblown, but I think maybe a little bit more from like an aesthetic standpoint than anything.
Any other big storylines that we should know about going into the Masters?
Again, Rory, has not won the career Grand Slam. This has been the one that has eluded him. He has played arguably the best golf to start the season that he has in quite some time. So I'd start there. 7 top 10s in the history at Augusta National. Never won. So certainly bridesmaid when it comes to this one. Scotty Scheffler. 3 of 4 Masters. If he's able to do that, win 3 Masters in a 4-year span, that is something we've hardly ever seen. And the guy you picked. Xander Schauffele has been hurt this season, but he's back for a couple tournaments, and he is going for 3 major wins in the last 4. That is something that you very rarely see. So I'd start there. And as much as I disagree with the Live Golf Tour and the competition that is on that tour, I do think the general storyline of, to Mark's point, what is Jon Rahm? Who
don't
is
know.
John Rahm? Like, we haven't seen Rahm in a very competitive atmosphere in quite some time. That storyline is there. Like, what's Bryson DeChambeau?
Mm-hmm.
What's Brooks Koepka? Patrick Reed and Sergio Garcia, Phil Mickelson, former champions. How do they play coming up here this week? So I would say those you would throw as some other storylines. And Angel Cabrera, fresh out of jail, along with Scotty Scheffler,
Teardrop tattoo.
El Pato, the man that will be gunning.
You can't take these golfers anywhere, Kevin.
Man that'll be gunning a cigarette up and down every fairway. I think he's paired up with Adam Schenk, if I'm not mistaken. Very much looking to see Angel Cabrera participating in the Masters.
I feel like I'm taking a little bit of a risk on Aubert only because at the Masters, I really like guys who truly understand that golf course.
He was a runner-up last year, right?
No, I know. That's why I picked him. But some of these, it's crazy. The veteran guys, they're late 30s, early 40s, tend to play pretty well at the Masters because they just know the intricacies of that course, which there are a ton of them to know. So that's what they talk
Question
about.
for the draft: what if we're all wrong?
We're doing score, right?
Score.
We're doing
Yeah,
score.
lowest total
Okay,
score.
gotcha.
We would
All
all have to have someone miss the cut, which I would think the odds of that are pretty slim. If that happens,
Yeah,
then
okay.
we just never talk about golf ever again on the show.
Oh, we can't do that, can we?
Kevin would be very sad.
All right. Coming up in a moment,
The
the
withdrawal
Colts had a
there.
little gathering yesterday. We'll find out what that was all about and if we learned anything as we continue next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
And if you're wondering on what you just heard, yes, the Long Beach race will be on WIBC Sunday afternoon because last game of the regular season, JB, for the Pacers at Cleveland, they tip off at 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon. You'll hear that one here on The Fan.
Dang, that's the end of the regular season.
Hard to believe this week.
48 minutes for Johnny Furphy coming up on Sunday.
He's about to get some buckets.
Let's go
Second
get that.
quarter action for Johnny Furphy last night. I knew Rick Carlisle was pissed when you saw that, and you saw he made Thomas Bryant commit a foul defensively to then take a timeout. You very rarely see that. So Rick Carlisle, understandably, very unhappy with his squad. It was the worst shooting night of the year, but they were overcome it. Thank you to 37 free throw attempts. Second most the Pacers have had all season, and the Washington Wizards openly tanking.
Nothing wrong with watching that part of it.
The pool party got canceled.
Uh-oh.
I mean, Jordan Poole was getting buckets. 19 points in 19 minutes.
Canceled the pool party.
Midway through the third quarter.
And he was heating up from three.
Said his name was Brian Keefe. Is that right?
Yes.
James Boyd, the Wizards head coach.
Yes.
He said, enough is enough. I know what my ownership wants. They want us to lose. Jordan Poole, you'll sit next to me the rest of the game.
Kevin, just for you.
By the way, do you think some of these guys are frustrated by that from like individual incentives?
Like they're close, yeah.
I mean, you think Jordan Poole sits there and is like, damn, I mean, I had 19 points in 19 minutes. I felt like I could have gotten 35 tonight.
Yes and no. I don't know. I mean, he's got incentives, just like personal. I want to go out there and score a lot.
I mean, I'm probably pointing a little bit more to contractual incentives, but
because I'm like, he probably already got as much as he's gonna get.
Yeah,
I mean,
but is there something where it's like, yeah, I mean, I want to average
on the line, though.
I want to average more points than guys I was drafted around. I mean, just like, I don't think Jordan Poole's loving necessarily having to sit for the final. Like, if you're Alex Sarr, you're like, wait a minute, I'm the second overall pick, and I'm having one of the best games of my NBA career.
Welcome to the business of the NBA. I will tell Alex Sarr, how do you think we got you?
No, it just rubs me the wrong way.
You're a running mate.
I know it's a summer topic, but it's like, once you're eliminated from the playoffs, should then every win count towards your lottery standing? Should you almost reverse the standings? Once you're eliminated from the postseason, how do you incentivize these teams to where you're not? I mean, for those that weren't in tune with the game last night, the Wizards literally benched their best players to win the game. Or, excuse me, to lose the game. So last week we had the Pacers stop playing because of respect. Last night we had the Wizards stop playing because of Cooper Flag. Do I have that right?
Whose flag should not be planted in Washington, D.C.
No,
Please, Lord.
Just feels wrong. Kevin, I found this, and I was thinking of you immediately after your comment where you were joking, saying that you got your Masters gear from the thrift store. But I thought maybe you weren't joking because I don't know if you saw this. You want to get good deals on Augusta National merchandise down in Augusta? You go to the thrift stores, Kevin. They got nothing but stuff in the thrift stores down there at the Masters. Pre-owned merchandise that has accumulated over the years, and it sells for pennies on the dollar compared to the brand new items straight off the shelves inside the inside the grounds.
Comes with free mothballs, too.
Very few logos are as iconic or prestigious as the 3D outline of
Like,
what the
my
Masters
grandma's
have
closet here? Mothballs. I ain't heard that in a while.
It says the Masters generates an estimated $70 million in merchandise sales during the tournament week. This week, JB, they'll generate $70 million just on merchandise.
How much of that goes into the Azalea budget?
Man.
The underground, heating element on the range to make sure if they have frost delays, guys can still hit balls on the range.
That reminds me of like driving to Florida and stuff. You get like 60 miles out from Orlando and you start seeing the signs like cheap Disney tickets this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Come over here. Like, that's not
check 'em
legit.
out?
Free cup of orange juice too. I'm like, that can't be real. Touch a baby alligator. Like, all right, you've convinced me.
It says, Mark, you think he's kidding. He's been on, this is his vacation right here.
That's what he's doing next week.
Yeah.
We drive past Augusta all the time, yeah.
The average patron, it says, spends approximately $250 at the merch tent. But that might actually be low because players themselves drop thousands of dollars. Some people spend 5 figures, Kevin.
It is absurd. And obviously you're buying, I would assume, a lot of that for friends and family back home. But yeah, it is
Not me.
That's one of my memories, certainly, of seeing the long line outside of that merchandise.
When I go play Augusta, don't you be asking for nothing, Kevin Bowen. I ain't coming back with nothing for you. I'm gonna come back see what I got.
I'll be your caddy down there if indeed you're playing.
I'm so serious. If I ever won like that Masters draft you were talking about, like for media, I would be terrified. I would honestly be terrified. I would be like, I don't even know where to start. They'd be like, who's this guy showing up in like basketball shorts and a polo he hasn't worn since college?
Now, you were in a little bit more of a comfortable setting yesterday over at the Colts local pro day. For our audience unfamiliar with that, who were some of the names out there?
Well, the biggest name was probably Curtis Rourke, but he didn't throw. He gave us an update on his ACL, said he just got cleared recently, back to throwing, just wasn't throwing yesterday, met with a lot of the trainers and whatnot. I met up with a couple of Illinois guys. Pat Bryant is probably another name out there, the draftable guy, wide receiver, contested catch guy. And I talked to Seth Coleman, who I know he was at Illinois for 6 years. He barely played high school football, and now he's like, man, I'm in the same building as like Dwight Freeney was, back in the day. So
edge rusher,
it was cool.
right?
Yeah, it was cool to catch up with him and a few others. But it was a lot of people out there. And I will even say to the Colts, give them their credit for how professional they are throughout the entire thing. I know some people might think like, oh, these guys will never get drafted or they're never going to sniff an NFL roster. And so for some of those guys, it might be their last time like really wearing cleats. But, the entire Colts contingent was out there. GM, head coach, OC, DC, special teams coordinator, passing game coordinator, like anybody you could think of on the Colts staff that really helps the pros on a day-to-day basis was out there watching these guys, coaching them up, and giving them a chance to chase their dream.
Yeah, they don't half-ass the attention towards their local pro day. It's not like they send, half the staff to, if a college team were to have a pro day yesterday, send them there, and then, just kind of have a, intern-filled staffing watching the local pro day. A couple other notes on that. I would say the highest drafted player at the local pro day will probably be Marcus Bowe, the offensive lineman out of Purdue. Played tackle primarily for the Boilers, but probably a little bit more of an interior guy at the next level. So I think you could hear his name even called maybe on day 2 of the draft coming up, round 2, round 3, 2 weeks from Friday. And then you might notice, again, it's a 90-mile radius from the Colts complex that you're able to attract for your local pro day. So that includes, as James pointed out, his alma mater in Illinois, Purdue and Indiana. Like Notre Dame, for example, they go to Chicago for their pro day. They're a Bears local pro day. Ohio State is not sending players to the Colts local pro day. You did have Josh Fryer, the Beech Grove product, though, there. So if you are in a radius of 90 miles collegiately or high school, you also get to attend that local pro day if you would like. So the Colts certainly don't have the most, rich, fertile ground, if you will, from a draft prospect standpoint, but a little bit of background on what the local pro day is.
JB, any chance that somebody you saw there yesterday gets invited to camp?
Yeah, there's always a good chance that could happen. I think you're definitely getting a beat on those guys, and that is certainly a possibility. But at the same time, I think a lot of these guys are just making sure, like, whoever you talk to, whether it's here or elsewhere, make sure you can tell them I can play. So it was cool to see him get out there.
James Boyd, in the history of Chris Ballard drafts, this will be draft number 9. He has traded 22 times in the draft. How many times has he traded up? 22 total trades. How many times has he traded up?
3.
5.
5
I
knew it was
times.
single digits. Yeah.
Those names he has traded up for,
Okay.
Tyquan Lewis, Kari Willis. Kari Willis might have been the biggest trade up. Actually, Nick Cross probably is the biggest, but Kari Willis, I think they moved up 20 spots in round 4 to get him. Jonathan Taylor was a slight trade up, just a few spots. I think a lot of people are used to seeing that Zoom video of Jim Irsay, telling Chris Ballard during the COVID draft of, hey, you've liked this guy throughout. Go ahead and trade up for him. They traded a future third-round pick for Nick Cross a couple of draft cycles ago, and then last year they did trade up for Matt Gonzalez in round 3. So
that's a sneaky one, too, because they didn't move up much, but they definitely moved up a few spots to get him.
So it always stands out to me when they do it, because they don't do it very often. I mean, 17 times they've traded back, 5 times they've traded up. But yeah, Tyquan Lewis, Kari Willis, Jonathan Taylor, Nick Cross, Matt Gonzalez.
That's a nice pull out of you, Kev. That took some research there. You went back and looked that up.
A little bit of background on that. But
I'll give KB his credit. He is well-versed when it comes to the history of their moves. And so Most of the time, I'm just waiting for him to say it in one of the settings, and I'm like, let me jot that down and double check that. And KB, what year was that? And, and it's funny because we all do that with each other. We're like, what year did this happen?
We're all mooching off each other.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So it's fun.
All right, coming up in a minute, we'll talk more about the Colts and what they've got ahead. Also, the final 3 games for the Indiana Pacers. What do you want to see? We'll also check in with Mike DeCourcy in the next hour. It's all straight ahead right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We are in our glory right here. Just finished up a national championship college men and women's season. We've got playoff basketball for the NBA straight ahead of us. We're all getting ready for the NFL draft. And Kevin, there's something else I'm not thinking of right now. What's going on? Sports? Anything?
I was hoping Mr. Mark Dyson could cue up a little audio here.
Oh, my goodness.
Deleted the 1 hour video.
He's going to, like, levitate out of his chair tomorrow.
We learned earlier that if you go to
silent
YouTube
here, I was going to maybe mute my mic for a little bit here. I was hoping Mark and I were on the same wavelength.
No.
I'm surprised you don't have the big screen TV up on the Golf Channel right now.
Well, I mean, who's to say I don't have
It won't be tomorrow.
Who's to say I don't have multiple tabs over here?
It's true.
And you have the boss button in case you walk by it. But yes, nonetheless, this time tomorrow they will be on the course at Augusta National, and we'll get ready for 96 players in the field and donning a green jacket on Sunday afternoon. You mentioned national championship. Mike DeCorso joined us here in a half hour to talk more about it and what happened Monday night in the Alamo Dome. You learn anything from Houston or Florida this year? Like if you're building a college basketball team, anything you learn from those two teams that played on Monday night?
I think they weren't completely freshman laden. They weren't full of one and done guys. They had a lot of really good talent that's going to be there for 2 or 3 years. That's probably what I think we get from many of these Final Four teams these days.
Yeah, I'm not sure, KB, mainly because of how these teams were built. Like I know Florida didn't have like the top 100 recruit on their roster. That's not a recipe for success, quite frankly. There's a reason why most times you want to have a top 100 recruit on your roster.
Sure.
They're the exception to the rule. They're not the new rule. And then you look at Houston, a very old team, which always helps when it comes to poise and success. And I just don't know. And I say that because you don't know what the transfer portal is going to bring you year to year these days, and if you're going to get guys to stay. So I just look at it as an opportunity for two teams to go at it, and one team obviously leaves in agony, where the other one is back on top of the basketball world.
Yeah, I think one kind of grand takeaway I had from these two teams, because I don't think they're built exactly the same by any means.
No,
I mean, James,
no.
you pointed out Florida, no top 100 recruits. Florida actually dipped internationally a decent amount with their roster. But I think one common thread between both of their rosters, they were multi-year guys. They're not the, hired gun, if you will, 1 year portal, or to your point, even the 5-star freshman or something like that just comes in and is an instant impact. If you look at both of their starting group and even a little bit of their rotation, I mean, for the most part, 6 of their 7 of their 8, however you want to look at it, had been with that program for multiple years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think that is something worth pointing out of the, Darren DeVries is in a different situation right now at Indiana. He, I would say, A, he probably has to, B, he probably wants to totally reshape that roster. But I think thinking or believing you're just going to recycle 80% of your group on an annual basis and have success is a ludicrous thought. I think you have to try and achieve a little bit of multi-year building. So how do you do that? Well, that means if you're going to use the portal, you got to have guys with multiple years of eligibility with that. And so I think that is something that is important to point out. Of when you do see some of these portal additions, can you find guys that do have a couple of seasons left? It's not a guarantee that, A, they're going to stay or anything like that. But I thought that was a similarity. And honestly, it reminds me a lot of what Purdue will look like next season. And when you look at Purdue, yes, Oscar Clough, they went out and got in the portal. He's got 1 year left. You would think at some point they get a wing. But if you look at their main group, whether it's Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Coffin-Wren, C.J. Cox, Jakari Harris, Daniel Jacobson, those are going to be guys that have been on this team for at least a couple of seasons. And obviously in Braden and Fletcher and Trey Coffin-Wren's case, they are major anomalies. So I think that general thought of you need the multi-year guys. It's fine to dip in the portal, but, portal guys, Florida outside of Elijah Martin, Walter Clayton Jr. had been there for multiple seasons. And Will Richard had been there for multiple seasons. I think that is something that's huge. L.J. Cryer with Houston had been there for multiple years, even though he was a portal guy. I think that is important to point out.
I'm glad you point that out, too, because I think we saw that on display in what Florida did in their final three of their last 4 games. They've been there and done that. Okay, we're behind by 7. We got we got 2.5 minutes to go, 3 minutes to go. We've seen this before. We've done this. We know that we can do that. They never panicked. You look at the very end of the game between Houston and Duke. Duke's, their inexperience showed. Beyond the fact they didn't have a true point guard, which you had pointed out, Kevin. Houston was ready for that moment. Duke was not ready for that moment.
And I would say UConn as well was kind of a a lot of that group were multiple year guys. So I think that is what you're striving for programs. It's okay. You probably aren't going to, the olden days of, this is a group that'll be here for 3 to 4 years. That's probably unlikely. But can you find a window to get, 6 of your top 7, 6 of your top 8, something like that? Can you get them within your program for a couple of seasons? What can you do with that? And I would argue when we get to the end of the portal season this cycle, Purdue's going to be near the top, if not at the top of that list in terms of having that continuity.
I think that'll serve them well. There's no question about that. We also look at the NBA coming down the stretch here. The playoffs are just a week away, folks. Believe it or not, 3 games remaining in the season for the Indiana Pacers, who have won 13 of their last 16. And despite whatever you called that game last night, as weird as and wonky as it was, got to be feeling pretty good about themselves right now, don't they, James?
Absolutely. I mean, the best thing about that game was the smothered chicken call by Quinn Buckner. Otherwise, the actual product wasn't that great. It was pretty rough considering the shooting, but they overcame it against a team that, as KB eloquently pointed out earlier, found a way to make sure they did not win. Made it close. This is like the movie Incredibles, where it's like, Dash is running, and they're like, oh, you can't, no, you're too far ahead. He's like, oh, and they're like, no, back up. No, you're going too slow. And he finishes second, and they're like, that's perfect, son. That is what the Wizards are telling their team. Go out there, play hard, play together, but not too much together because we need to make sure we lose. And so maybe the Pacers benefited from that. Who cares? It's a win. And your 50 games bet, KB, is still alive, my friend.
I was sweating last night for a while there. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I about to lose? Like, it'd be one thing if Cleveland plays all their guys
Carrington,
tomorrow night. Yeah, literally.
AJ Johnson.
JT Thor sounds like a character I read in a Marvel book, and all of a sudden here he is ending my 50-win bet.
Miles had Joe back.
You know what Kevin was yelling when that game went final?
Blocked by smothered chicken. Please give me some smothered chicken on that one.
Smothered chicken, please. Give me some smothered chicken on that one.
And just praying Max Bone will eat any chicken and not throw it across the room, frankly, on that.
Oh, my gosh.
Honestly, I would say I was so embarrassed by the Pacers start to the third quarter last night. Like,
it was like 9-0.
Like, the start of the game was embarrassing itself.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, they did dig themselves out of it. It was tied at half.
Yeah, with the
so
Tyrese Halliburton layup.
All right, finally it's tied at half. Yeah, Halliburton has the layup there. Boom, you go into halftime, you think full regroup, et cetera, et cetera. And next thing you know, the Wizards are up 14 midway through the third quarter. It was, I mean, there was I feel like if I were Rick Carlisle today, I'd be very torn on the approach I would have with my team. I mean, I don't think it's that ludicrous to say if the Wizards just wouldn't have benched Jordan Poole, the Pacers lose.
Maybe. And sorry.
So, like, how do you, react to that? There's a little bit of element to me that's like, all right, let's not overreact to, random games of these lottery teams, because I do think the Pacers are still going to be a very, very tough out when the playoffs get here. But, yeah, last night had more embarrassment than good, but they were able to outlast the Wizards. And to be fair, they did make the plays in the final 2 minutes. Siakam had a couple buckets at the rim. Neesmith at that corner 3. Turner really iced it from there. But, yeah, I'm just fully ready for keep guys healthy, get to the postseason. Selfishly, I need 50 wins. And let's see the Bucks or whoever in this building coming up a week from Saturday or Sunday.
You talk about tanking, and clearly the Wizards were doing that last night. There are 5 teams in the NBA this year that will probably not win 25 games. There are 3 that will probably not win 20, Kevin. That can't be good.
Well, and this gets into discussion we had a little bit last segment. What can you do from a league standpoint? Can you get to the point where, I brought this up last hour, once the Wizards are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, do you then start to reward them for each win they have down the stretch to try to improve their lottery? Because,
What if they just can't, though?
Well, I mean, that's part of
Yeah.
just being a bad basketball team. I mean, they obviously were mathematically eliminated for a reason. But, like, I guess to point out the whole tanking, it's not like the players are going out there and tanking. It's not like
It's an organizational thing. 'Cause
Right,
you can't make players just take
JT
plays
Thor doesn't
off.
want to miss shots and
Right.
hurt his resume. And, like,
nah.
I mean, last night, for those that missed it, and I know we've touched on it a lot today, Jordan Poole, with the Wizards up 14 midway through the third quarter, they benched him for the rest of the game. He had 19 points in 19 minutes, benched for the rest of the game. Alex Sarr, arguably the best player on the floor last night. Wizards are up 3 with 6 minutes to go. He's playing great basketball. They bench him for the final 6 minutes. Like, they didn't allow for those players to be on the floor and win the game. So, again, how do you just reward teams to be competitive through game 82? Because a lot of it will come down to your schedule when you think about it. I mean, a lot of this will come down to how back-weighted is your schedule with the lottery-bound teams. That is influencing, I think, a lot of this. You know, if you play let's pull out the Hornets. Didn't the Pacers lose to the Hornets twice this season, early in the year? And then they beat the Hornets last week?
Mhm.
Well, look at the Hornets right now, Jeff. LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller and where they're at from a availability standpoint. And look at how much they were competing a little bit more earlier in the year. They're naturally going to be hungrier organizationally in October, November than they are now at game 78 when Cooper Flag becomes a real thing and all of that. So the league's got to do something about it. There are enough nerds that work in the NBA office that they can figure something out, find out the people that did the in-season tournament, figure something out. But, I mean, that was pathetic, frankly, to watch last night. The Wizards just openly playing one of their best games in a while. I mean, don't you think from a competitive standpoint you would like to get the team back? They just put up 162 on you the week prior. And they're playing great ball. And they benched their 2 best players.
It was a weird game all the way around, too. They had that 14-point lead. There was about 6 or 7 minutes in that third quarter last night. It just felt like rec center ball where teams they were both just coming down and firing up the 3 the second that the one became available. And I was just like, yeah, I need to be doing some other things while this game is on in the background right now.
Yeah, I mean, that was,
It was the worst shooting night of the year for the Pacers.
what was it, 38%?
Yeah.
And they still won the game.
Weren't
So,
they like 4 of 27 at one point from three-point range?
It was rough stuff, but on a more, I guess, noteworthy tip, I thought that Tyrese taking that fall right before the half was something to note.
Scary.
I was like, wait a second, did this just turn into like, this game is stupid to, oh my gosh, this is going to be something that lingers? But he sounded like he was fine after the game, called it floor burn, I believe. Hadn't heard that term since I was in like 6th grade.
When's the last time you got a floor burn?
I'm like picturing me in a carpeted elementary back in the day, just having these rug burns on my knees.
I would say last time I got a floor burn playing basketball might have been, I don't know, 2 months ago, and it wasn't by choice. Probably because I got tripped or something and took a nice little
You
spill.
weren't sliding backwards to take the charge?
Nah. I told you all my charge approach in high school. It was, my coach was telling me, James, you got to take the charge.
Taking a charge.
And then, my mom was like, she'd be in the stands like, boy, don't you dare. And then I would lie to my coach, tell him, yeah, next time, coach, because she'd be like, boy, our insurance is not that good. You can't be doing that. And she, she'll tell me now, you ain't got no, junk in the trunk. So why are you doing all that trying to, take these charges when your chest is, built like paper mache? So
You're not Big Baby Davis taking a charge?
no, mom kept me humble and very healthy.
I feel like we need to sit down at a Boyd family dinner because I think the conversation would be fascinating.
Oh, I told Mark this. Like, it is comedy in my household growing up. No joke. My dad is funny all the time just because he's not even trying to be funny. He's funny when he's funny. He's funny when he's mad. He's funny when he's tired. He's just funny.
Do you laugh at him when he's all mad at you?
Absolutely. Now I'm grown, so he can't do nothing about it. So, like, he has his little thing. We call him, his first name is Jesse. We call him Jesseisms. Like, he hates when I walk in the house to this day and my shoes are untied. And he's just like, lace your shoes up, man. And I'm like, no, I'm grown. And that'll become a whole thing, and we'll just laugh. And I'll usually do it just to appease him, but it is a thing with him. But yeah, it was always pretty funny growing up.
Mm.
They wouldn't be laughing last night at that game. No, they would have cut that off. That was bad basketball.
Yeah,
but
that was painful.
it counts. It counts.
And I do think, obviously Friday morning we might have this opportunity, but we might not really have the opportunity because the Pacers schedule the rest of the season. They play tomorrow against Cleveland, Friday against Orlando, then Sunday afternoon is game 82 against Cleveland. And then obviously after that, you know your first round opponent. So we'll probably quickly shift conversationally
yes.
to whoever they're playing in round one. Right now it looks like it'll be the Bucs. But like they are on the verge of a 50-win season. That hasn't been done by this franchise in a decade.
And considering the start,
I mean, they
KB,
were 10 and 15 at one point. Halliburton had an oft-injured summer. And go back to the last time you've had home court in a playoff series. Again, you got to go a decade ago. So, again, I don't know if the calendar will allow for us to commit a chunk of time to like that hat tip, but I guess I want to get ahead of it and do that right now because it's an accomplishment. And as James pointed out, it's a hell of an accomplishment when you consider where this team was at the start of the season. Can you imagine at 10 and 15 saying they're going to win 50 games for the first time in a decade and they're going to have home court? And I just I love that for our city and our state more than anything, just because I think there's nothing cooler than big-time sporting events in our own backyard. And we had that in the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, last weekend, and we're going to get it next April with the Final Four going to be here. But home playoff atmospheres, the Colts have given you nothing now for a decade. Even if you want to point to the Fever have given you nothing. Obviously they're on the verge of that changing, you would think, in a substantial way. But the Pacers, when they have made the playoffs, oftentimes it's been on the road. So, Easter weekend, to get a home game on that Saturday or Sunday, game 2 of that playoff series would likely be kind of early that next week at home. I think that should be celebrated. And I don't know if just our calendar will allow for us to do that. So I'm going to make sure that I do it now. They've won 13 of 14. They've eclipsed their win total from last season. Job well done by Rick Carlisle and company after certainly a poor start to the year.
I love that, and I've said this before. I will say it again. I'll keep saying it. This is an easy team to like. Like, if you're a basketball fan and you live in Indianapolis, the state of Indiana, you have to like your basketball team. They like each other. They play with joy. There's smiles. There's laughter. They come off the bench for each other when guys hit those big threes. You don't see that all the time in today's NBA. This team likes each other, James.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know many teams that win a lot, win at the rate that they do, and probably don't like each other to that rate. But it is cool just because you see a lot of different personalities. I've made the joke before. I'm actually not really joking anymore. I love Thomas Bryant. He might be my favorite Pacer currently just because he's so demonstrative. He's so out there. The energy is great. And then we have Tyrese running the show. And I think when your star is as measured as he is, it kind of trickles down to the rest of your team. Because,
certainly. Yeah, I think it goes a long, long way.
Yeah, he takes nothing personal. Takes it all on the chin, and also he is a big personality himself and has a sense of humor and levity to his game and his life overall. So I enjoyed it, but I also think there's a serious side that we see from Tyrese and others that we'll see even more of come playoff time, because I think they still want to prove last year was not a fluke. We didn't just get to the conference finals on a whim. We're not the Atlanta Hawks from a few years ago that made it and didn't make it back. We're going to prove that we're kind of this perennial, juggernaut in the East.
All right, we'll look forward to seeing all that unfold over the next week or so. In the meantime, let's check it down, Mark.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Butler Bulldogs Basketball. 2025-26 season tickets are on sale now. Registration for iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse premium seats runs through May 31st. Don't miss Hinkle Magic. Visit butlersports.com/buy tickets.
Pacers won last night over the Washington Wizards 104-98 with a late surge in the last 2 minutes to get it done. But let's be honest, Kevin, as you pointed out all throughout the morning, Wizards weren't really trying all that hard from their coaching staff last night.
It was an unbelievable tank job last night by the Wizards. They executed it beautifully. The Pacers overcame several different dry spells. Again, their worst shooting night of the year. They did attempt their second most foul shots of the season, 37 of them, so that was a big, big help. And I thought Pascal Siakam looked like his normal self, and I haven't said that in a while. Again, Siakam didn't play Sunday with that elbow injury, so I do think individually you can point to Siakam and say, all right, that's what you want to see now here in the month of April and hopefully beyond.
James' biggest takeaway from that whole game was at the very end when Quinn was giving you the smothered chicken.
It actually wasn't at the very end. It was the pivotal block in the game from Miles, and we got the smothered chicken. Please give me some smothered chicken. And I was just like, that's the greatest call ever.
I do like this.
And blocked by smothered chicken. Please give me some smothered chicken on that one.
I must say, I'm sounding more like Quinn every day, man. I need to. I gotta talk to Quinn before a game or sometime and just tell him like how much I appreciate him and the
Honestly,
joy he brings me.
If Quinn, God forbid, were to get sick and miss a game, James Boyd, I think you might be the one to slide in after this impersonation that I hear.
I just tell him, give me like 5 or 6 lines and I'll practice them and be ready to go.
Left, short. You gotta yell that out at jump shots.
So as the Pacers were winning
Partner,
at home,
sorry, partner.
the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 110-103. They remain 3 games behind the Pacers in the East. It's looking more and more, Kevin, as if that is your first-round matchup, 4-5 Pacers-Bucks, with the Pacers getting home court advantage. Getting close. Magic number is 1, correct?
Cleveland clinched the 1, right, last night? So
Yeah, they routed the Bulls.
I don't know how much they care about the overall record. I think the Thunder, it's still a little bit up for grabs, but I'll be curious to see the availability for the Cavs tomorrow night. I think Cleveland and Indiana will still play their guys. It is national TV for what it's worth, TNT at 7 o'clock. So I believe that means no Chris and Quinn. So Quinn gets a night off after smothered chicken. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, he should. He should.
Oklahoma City beat the Lakers 136-120 last night. Gilgeous Alexander had 42, James 28 in defeat. And the Warriors continue to play well. JB, what's your take on the Warriors? Did they have a shot in the West? They just came up with a huge win over a tanking Phoenix Suns team last night, but
I don't know if the Suns are tanking, but man, they're losing.
Well, no, the last 2 weeks they have been a disaster.
Yeah, Kevin Durant's been out. I mean, the Warriors will always have a chance with Steph Curry. I've kind of just accepted the fact that as great as we talk about LeBron is, Steph is in that same category of longevity and just fear he puts in opponents and teams. But realistically, no, they don't have a chance in the West. I don't think they're getting out of the West.
All right, Major League Baseball Cubs continue hitting big. 10-6 winners over the Rangers last night. And how about the Reds?
Don't look now, but here come the Red Wings.
Second
About
game
damn
in a
time,
row.
Mark Dykton.
Shutout. 2 shutouts in a row for the Reds.
About ready to walk over there and see what all was on Mark Dykton's computer, which
You
would
don't
have been
wanna
a
see
scary
that.
sight, but
Did you watch
glad
any
you
of
found that audio.
Did you watch any of Nick Lodalo's work yesterday?
Boy, if I do that, I really got to check myself in the mirror if I am staying up to watch Reds Giants on April 8th. So, no, I gave it Pacers Wizards, and I said,
That's enough, sicko.
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, you got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
I'll have enough golf consumption here over the next 96 hours.
Louisville Bats over the Indianapolis Indians last night. The International League 4-2 final. Same 2 teams play in Louisville later on tonight. Coming up in a moment, a conversation with one of our favorites here at The Fan. Mike DeCourcy stops by on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Can I just say I'm really proud of both you guys? Like, the official snack food of the morning show may be the banana. You brought a couple in this morning, James. You bring one almost every day. I would have expected.
I'm proud that you grabbed a banana on the way out, KB.
No, because if
I
it was
didn't
up
steal
to,
mine from Max Bowen, so
I think
mine were for me.
I think you'd be appalled at probably what I eat the rest of the day. So.
I don't want to know. All I see is you're eating the good stuff, and I would have expected with Mark Dykton running this three-ring circus here that it would just be nothing but chemical-laden, sugar-infused snacks.
Oh my goodness, you're like the.
Hey, look, I am the king of licorice. Like, I can't complain about non-natural foods. There's nowhere you're going to find licorice in nature, and I will eat that stuff like it's going out of style. But
I gotta check your seasoning cabinet, Jeff. What we got over at the Rickard household that's like not healthy? Are you like a?
Well, you got to remember the other half of my family's Filipino, so there's all kinds of good food around there.
All right, yeah.
There's all kinds.
Fair
of
enough.
Because
I'm like,
I want your personal snack cabinet.
Yeah,
the thing lately for the last couple of weeks, my oldest son and I have both been, and I'm not afraid to admit this, the gingerbread cookies from Pepperidge Farm seem to have been flying off the shelves lately.
See, that's what I'm saying. Live a little.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
You got one life.
Yeah,
Enjoy
I've seen
it.
you have so much discipline.
And I'm a Red Vines guy.
By the way,
I'm watching the game last night eating Red Vines.
After
Fair
our
enough.
conversation here with Mike DeCourcy, we do need to decide on a winning prize for the Masters pool. I think we kind of slipped
Think
a little
about
bit
that
there.
tonight, maybe.
I don't think we're one that's like, oh, how about pride is on the line? We need a little bit more of a tangible.
I want the shirt off KB right now.
Masters gear. You have to buy Masters gear from the official store.
Nah.
Or do you have to-
I
can you
want
get it at
that
Goodwill
Masters
down there?
gear.
It wouldn't be the first time Kevin's been shirtless on the air. Actually, he's at like a baker's dozen now.
Yeah.
I think you secretly like not wearing a shirt.
I mean, you're not the first person
There's no shame in that.
That's asked me that. But yeah, might as well.
All right. Mike DeCourcy joins us now on the Payless Liquors
he's loving this
hotline.
transition.
One of my favorite people of all time. You never really
I was on
quite
hold
know.
for 3 minutes
Yeah.
to hear about bananas and Kevin Bowen's gut.
You really never know what you're walking into here, Mike. You know this.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Jeff. I didn't know I was walking into you. I missed the March maybe caused me to miss the news that you were coming back to Indy. Congratulations. But if I'd known it was you, I would have said no.
I like that. My occasional lunch partner, Mike DeCourcy. We're trying to figure out. We were talking about this a moment ago, the championship game, great one with Houston, Florida the other night. But the way rosters are constructed now and more veteran players on those two teams, like, what did we learn about winning in today's NIL era in college basketball this tournament?
I think what we learned was that you can't expect to just portal and win the biggest games. Can you win a bunch of games? Yeah. Kentucky had to do that a year ago. I mean, there was no other way. They were going to have an empty gym because of the late nature of John Calipari leaving for Arkansas, and of course the number of players who would follow him to Fayetteville or go elsewhere. And so you're looking at an empty gym. There are no high school players who are going to change an SEC game left in April for the most part. And if they are, like, there's still a couple McDonald's All-Americans right now that are unsigned, but they have a couple of places that they're thinking about. You're not going to come in and change their minds at this point. So he had to go out and go to the portal, and he winds up building a Sweet 16 team with that. Good, great. That's amazing work. But you're not going to win the biggest game doing that. And what I wrote about I looked at all the rosters, all the rotations of the final four teams, and 59% of those players were what I call homegrown. Now, I got some resistance from anti-Duke people saying, well, they're just freshmen. Well, somebody else coached them for the last 10 months? I don't think so. So they're homegrown too. They just are younger homegrown players. And if you don't have those players, you're not going to win this. But the secondary thing that we didn't learn this. We were reminded of this. Coaches don't want to concede this because they believe that they're going to be able to win it all with what they have. But after the game, Calvin Sampson was talking to about 25 or so of us surrounding him, and he talked about somebody asked him about the difficulty of winning it all, and he said, "Hey, it's difficult just to get in. And then in order to win this, you have to win 6 games. And he said, we were built to win this tournament. And I was like really happy that he said that, because it made it easy for me to write the ending to my story, because I was writing about Walter Clayton and what guys at that level can do for you, whether they're making baskets as he did throughout the tournament, or making defensive plays as he surprised all of us by doing at the very end, and forcing the turnover from Emmanuel Sharp. You got to have pros. You got to have first-round guys. It's now 37 consecutive tournaments that if you didn't have a likely, or as it's turned out, a definite first-round pick in your rotation, you didn't win it. And Houston doesn't have that player, and Florida did. Florida, I think that not only will Walter Clayton be, but I think, presuming he stays healthy, I think Thomas Houck will as well. But you have to have those guys, because they make plays like that. They make plays like Clayton did all throughout the tournament, the UConn game, the Texas Tech game, or like he made, as I said, it was different than what we expected, but it was a game-changing play. And, of course, Kelvin's not going to look at his roster on the day of the game and say, I don't have any NBA guys, so I'm not going to win this game tonight. No, of course, they're going to push, and they almost did it. But it just always seems to turn out in the end that the teams that don't have those players don't win it.
Mike, when you look at the ending of that game, obviously a painful one for Houston, but just the theater that we got not only at the end of that game, but the other 2 Final Four games, your thoughts on just the way the tournament sort of came together and gave us such fantastic finishes?
Yeah, I've said this at the beginning of the tournament when people were complaining about the lack of mid-major upsets and that sort of thing. And my response to that is that you have to look at those at the tournament as like Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate at the end of the year. It's like a present for that occasion, and you can't be disappointed by the present. I mean, you're getting a present that you didn't have, and every year the tournament gives us these gifts, and some of them are 12-5 upsets, and some of them are even, although I'm not sure anybody listening to me is going to call this a gift. Oh, maybe the Indiana fans will. 16-1 upsets. You just don't know what you're going to get, and sometimes you get 4 number ones at the Final Four that present to you 3 fantastic games. And I don't ever remember being disappointed by the NCAA tournament, and I've been following it for 50 years. I've been disappointed by results. Certainly, when I was a kid and Notre Dame lost to Michigan, yeah, I was disappointed by that. But, you grow up, and then when it's your job, it just gives you all these gifts, and they just don't always look the same.
By the way, one thing I'm disappointed by on this Wednesday morning, I'm horrified by Cameron Smith's outfit at the Masters. Mark Dykton, we're going to need a retweet of this on the show account here. Upcoming. Thankfully, the conversation with Mike DeCourcy, though, will not go down that road. Mike DeCourcy joining us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Mike, I do want to shift gears a little bit. You brought up Indiana fans, Darren DeVries in town. I don't know how or if you've had any interaction with him over the years, but what were your thoughts just in that general process, how it played out, and Darren DeVries' hire in Bloomington?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the hire, I don't know him well, and I'm looking forward to maybe getting to know him better as he, coaches in the Big Ten. My initial thought was, first of all, absolutely a fantastic basketball coach, and that part has to be covered to hire the next coach in Indiana. You have to cover that part, and they did without a doubt here. I mean, look at his track record at Drake. And I'll tell you a story. I'm living in Pittsburgh now, having moved a year ago from Indy, and so I don't have as the wealth of games to see that I did when I lived there. IU, Butler, Purdue, it was great. Louisville wasn't all that far. I went down once or twice, but I don't. So when Pitt played West Virginia here in Pittsburgh, I'm going to be at that game as long as I don't have any conflict. And so I'm there, and I'm going to tell you that when it was over, I thought West Virginia would win 7 games. I legitimately thought they would win 7 games in this season. They were so bad, and Pitt could have scored 100. 100 if they had tried, they could have scored 110. And they ended up winning by 20 plus points. And I thought that is a bad team. And I don't know what it was, but about that night or whatever. But 2 weeks later, they're down in the Bahamas and they're winning 2 out of 3 games. And they end up winning at Kansas, and they end up winning 20-plus games, and they should have been in the NCAAs. That's a pretty amazing coaching performance to me. And they did all that while losing Tucker DeVries after 8 or 9 games. Really a phenomenal season that he had. And, of course, preceded all that with all the success at Drake. He's a terrific coach. Now, there's the secondary part of the job, and it's an important part of the job, and that is dealing with the public. Dealing with the interest. It's not that there isn't interest in West Virginia, but I don't think it's as profound as what you get in the state of Indiana. Indiana is the best place for basketball as a state, without a doubt. You have to manage that. You have to accept that, and you have to kind of conquer it by making it an asset for your program. All the great players that come out of the state. All the interest there, all the terrific high school coaches who help develop the terrific players that come out. You have to be connected to all of that, and you have to be able to deal with the public interest in a way that you're an appealing person, that you're someone that embraces it. That didn't happen with Arch. It's not his personality. It didn't happen with Mike Woodson, not his personality either. Neither of them is difficult necessarily, but they aren't also on the opposite side of that, where they're embracing it. And that's something that I don't know about Darren, but I think he will be a more successful coach if he can and does.
Mike, big picture college basketball-wise, you think we need more guardrails around NIL and whatever that acronym even means, or the transfer portal?
Well, if I was given the choice, if I was king of basketball and all of that, I mean, I would say it's more important that the transfer portal, you get it once, a one-time exception. The next time you have to sit out a year, and that would be the ideal. Everybody should be able to move once because you can make a mistake and you shouldn't have to pay for that. Or they made a mistake because they recruited Mike DeCourcy and he can't play at all. That has to be able to happen. But the second time, that's when you get into players having the balance of power tilting way too much in their direction. It is disruptive for the sport, and I don't think it's good for them necessarily either. You don't want them to lose all their leverage because you don't want them to be able to. Like I come to play at good old State U for $1 million, let's say. And then I play a year, and I have a good year. But they say, we need half a year million to go get this other guy, so you're only going to make a half. I mean, that's not right either. So there has to be some protection for that as well.
Good to talk to you and hear your voice, bud. Hope you're doing well in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely, Jeff. It's always a pleasure.
Come see us when you come back to town, all right?
I will definitely be back in a year and maybe before. Who knows? All
right. Mike DeCourcy, Big Ten Network Sporting News, joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Coming up in a moment, our Jiffy Lube stat of the day. And we'll put a big bow on what has been the smothered chicken edition of the Fan Morning Show today.
Smothered chicken! Give me some smothered chicken.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I was just thinking, what should be the number one political issue in the state of Indiana and specifically in Indianapolis, JB?
Politics on sports radio.
No, this one thing, it's really not even political, but nobody ever pays attention. Why do the roads in this city suck so bad?
I don't know. I mean, this question has never been asked in the history of Indiana.
But nobody ever does anything about it.
Jeff runs on roads. I'll run on plows in the wintertime. Where are the plows? What are we doing here?
You guys could run together.
No,
I want to
wouldn't
win.
want anything to do with that.
They don't want you and Mark?
No, nobody would want me to be the mayor. I don't want to be the mayor.
What the hell is Cameron Smith wearing? Are you guys seeing this out
Yeah,
there?
I don't know.
Let me
Looks like
see
he's in a
I
frat.
have seen this.
He's in a frat pledge or something.
Frat play. I mean, he looks like he's like a hickory golfer back in like 1922. Like it was wearing something you would wear in the 1931 Masters with Bobby Jones. He's literally wearing a suit on the golf course and like swinging.
But he's got like a trucker hat on. So like I said, he looks like a frat pledge. He's like, I just grabbed this from like.
But that would
The
be the guy to do
Goodwill
that,
store.
though, wouldn't it?
He's got his live golf hat on
Yeah.
and a nice. I mean, boy, it looks like he could be heading to the New York Stock Exchange. By the way, you think a good week for Phil Mickelson with the current state of our stock market while we're on a little bit of a political thread, or no? You think Phil Mickelson's a little uneasy right now with how his stocks look?
I think everybody.
I was going to say.
Or should we just stop at the potholes and move on?
Yeah,
Let's stop at the potholes. That was. I should have not even said the word political. I just don't understand why no one ever fixes the roads. Whatever they do, they're no good again the next year. That's all I know.
Mark Dykton, time for our Jiffy Lube stats.
There we go.
Of the day. One of the more underreported stories heading into this year's Masters, according to Scotty's Rory, becoming the career Grand Slam, maybe the 6th golfer ever to complete that Grand Slam. Masters, PGA, U.S. Open, and British Open. One reason why Rory's floating under the radar is to be his 17th attempt to win the Masters. Boy, can I say I strongly disagree with Scotty and Rory floating under the radar? Have you seen the odds, Scotty?
Well, I guess he means maybe he hasn't won in a long time or never won the Masters.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Odds-wise, Vegas.
Scotty, I got your back, Scotty. That's my hoop partner, Scotty, you talking about, man.
Vegas with Dikembe Mutombo, that thought. But nonetheless, yes, indeed, his 17th attempt to win the Masters. Of the 5 golfers who have completed the career Grand Slam, none needed more than 3 attempts to win that 4th different major. This will be his 11th chance at the Masters.
Dang.
To do that since he's won the other 3. He won the other 3 very early in his careers. Scotty adds this: of the 56 different golfers to win the Masters, only Sergio Garcia needed more than 17 attempts to pick up that first win at Augusta. Sergio won it in 2017 in his 19th Masters appearance. That was a classic finish. We haven't got many of those.
When he's sprinting up 18?
Sergio, not sprinting up 18, making the putt on 18.
Making the putt, yeah.
Yeah. Sprinting was back at the PGA Championship
that's
back in
what
the
that
day.
was. Thank you.
But yes, Sergio winning the Masters in 2017, and he has had very good form on the LIV Tour as of late. So I'll be curious to see how Sergio plays this week.
Ooh, maybe that's a consideration.
If
for
we
your
did our
third guy tomorrow.
who was our email guy earlier who wanted the alter draft? I'm trying to think who emailed me earlier. I think it was Anthony. He offered the pick a golfer over the age of 40. If you're in a Masters pool with that, I think Sergio would be a decent choice with that.
Not bad. Right now, your current odds, Mark: Scheffler plus 400, McIlroy plus 650, John Rahm, fresh off the LIV Tour, plus 1,400, Morikawa plus 1,600 now, and Aubert plus 1,800. Xander Schauffele, who's been red hot in majors lately, plus 2,000.
I mean, it's very. I mean, Mark, you bet enough golf majors. It is super rare to have 2 dudes at plus 700 or better. I mean, like, this is a very much, back in the day, people said the debate: would you take Tiger or the rest of the field? It was just amazing. Tiger was that big of a bet. Will Haskett, who we had on Monday, you could make the case: would you take Rory or Scheffler or the field? Like, that would be a very healthy debate right now.
Well, since I took Scotty Scheffler in the draft, I think I'm correct. All I ask, you just, rough him up, or so the cop said, to get him in the right mindset for his performance.
Going right back to Kentucky on that, huh?
Yeah, man. I mean, that was one of the most bizarre days, in all seriousness.
Funny.
I remember, was it Jeff Darlington?
Jeff Darlington, who was right there when
he
Tyreek Hill
gave the
got arrested as well.
Yeah.
You don't want Jeff Darlington showing up to your sporting event.
Because he'll get you the play-by-play. That was actually great reporting. Because obviously a lot of that stuff got debunked later on with various versions coming out of what actually happened. But, Scotty, no, I don't want you to get arrested. I do want you to have a good performance so I can win and brag to these guys.
Don't you dare try to make a right turn where you're supposed to be making a left. Kevin. We will throw you right into the can.
He drugged me.
Jail.
He drugged me.
I was in Vegas, woke up that morning. I think Mark, you had texted me like 6 times. Like, are you alive? Have you seen this story? That was epic.
I just love the look on his face all day long. It's like, am I living in an alternate reality right now?
Well, again, there's 150 guys in the field. Of all the players to encounter that, it's the favorite and probably one of the most innocent, well-behaved individuals out there in Scotty Scheffler.
Sometimes trouble just finds you, Kevin. You're not looking for it; it just finds you, right, James?
I mean, I'm a goody two shoes, okay? Trouble ain't fair. Trouble don't find me too often. And again, being this size, I've been very diplomatic my entire life. Whenever they got a little too, hairy, I was like, we could work this out. We could talk this out.
There you go. Viewing picks are a little more slim today than normal. We don't have a Pacers game tonight. We don't have any kind of NCAA tournament going on. We do have some Major League Baseball coming up later on today. The Cubs will play at 2:20 this afternoon. That's perfect for you, daytime baseball, right, Mark?
Yeah, I'll probably take a nap and then turn that on or have it on in the background.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we have any NBA games that impact the Pacers. Like, I don't think we don't have the Bucks or the Pistons or even the Knicks. The Knicks still haven't clinched the 3, right? Tatum hit that 3, and then Boston won in overtime last night.
Yeah.
I think over New York, so... again, the magic number for New York to be the 3 is, I think, 1. So it's unlikely the Pacers would climb to the 3, just like it's unlikely the Pacers would fall to the 5. But in all likelihood, it's going to be the Pacers at the 4, and it's looking like it'll be Milwaukee as the 5.
Can I give a shout out?
Sure.
This is actually a serious shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out to my guy Brendan Perdue. He was a true, with them all through everything, Pacers fan, and he actually died 3 years ago today from Ewing sarcoma, a form of cancer. Pretty tragic story, but I got to know his family, got to know him before his death, and he was a great dude. I know he probably is watching this season up above and enjoying the Pacers. And I asked earlier who would watch this game between the Wizards and the Pacers, and he would be all in watching every single game. And so shout out to my guy Brendan Perdue, who died at 27 from cancer, but also had an amazing perspective on life and kind of gave me some perspective that I needed early in my career. So thank you, Brendan.
Wait, your family doing okay?
Yeah, family doing great.
Good.
James, my Magic thinks, did you not write something on that?
Yeah, I shared the story at Indy Star. I just shared it on my social media account. If you didn't read it,
I seem to recall that.
Check it out. Great human, great family. Obviously, they're hurting today, but they're still doing well in Washington, Indiana.
Yeah. Getting back to schedule, lots of afternoon action. The Reds today, Kevin, taking care of us too. 3:45.
Yeah, that's the hottest team in baseball. The team no one wants to see. Right
You can't score against the Reds.
Nope.
Can't score against them. Not this week.
Are those turbo bats on back order still?
Don't look now, but here come the Red Legs.
When you allow 0, you don't need the torpedo bats.
Fair enough.
You just go out there.
Simple math.
The one run they did scratch across yesterday came on an RBI ground out. So there you go. We'll take
it. Don't matter.
A win is a win
right,
is a win.
Yeah.
That's how that works. All right. That'll wrap it up for us today. Fantastic job out of both you and Mark, as always, getting it done. Jake Query comes your way at noon. JMV at 3. ESPN Radio.